right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How is everybody doing tonight? Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the replay gang. Unfortunately, you guys missed the best part of this, the live show. But don't worry, you are still going to very much enjoy what you're about to see. But so that you don't miss another live party, make sure every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you are right here. That is always when I'm here, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, change the notifications to all, and you will never again miss a live party. Also, before we begin, just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the stream, MySickShirt.com. You can look as beautiful as any of these ladies if you buy one of these shirts. Maybe just kidding, kind of not really. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it's the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at MySickShirt.com. All right. What is going on? How are we doing tonight? Not too much build up here. You probably saw the thumbnail and the title. Steven Crowder has a brand new Change My Mind edition, segment, episode, whatever you want to call it. And as I promised, Salty Plays, the last time he asked me if we were going to watch some more Crowder, and I told him the next time that Crowder comes out with an episode, then we will indeed watch it. So that is what we're going to do. You guys know what it is. Steven Crowder sets up a table in a highly populated area, typically a college, either on a college campus or in a college town, and presents an idea. And so today, his idea is hate speech is not real. And the point of the segment is for you, whoever, is for people to come and attempt to change his mind. So that's the premise. This is what he believes. And it's their responsibility to come and change his mind. So without further ado, let's dive right in.
Time for the latest installment of Change My Mind, unedited conversations on controversial topics, providing an opportunity to rationalize one's own position. As always, comment below with the topics you'd most like to see in the future. Today, we revisit a controversial topic in hate speech. So it was perfectly fitting that we revisited our most controversial location.
So most controversial location. Yeah, I think there was a Texas university there. A lot of students were making a lot of noise, let's just say. But I do have the poll up. I'm going to leave that up as more people are filtering in. I want to know what you guys think before we're getting into actually what they're talking about and what reasons Crowder and the people who are sitting down, what they're bringing up. I want to hear what you guys think. Is hate speech real?
Texas Christian University.
This was last time.
Given the largely productive, mostly still nature of the last installment.
Hey, we got Trad Guy Tribal in the building. What is going on? No, not Texas A&M. It was Texas Christian University. I think that's what it was called, right? Let's see. Yeah, Texas Christian University. So it's different than Texas A&M. But welcome to the party. How are you doing tonight?
Texas Christian University.
This is from these two clips are from the last time they were at Texas Christian University.
Really? Yes, they do. If nobody invited you, can we ask you to leave this campus? Is it being handled? Shut the f*** up!
It makes you mad given the largely productive and mostly civil nature of the...
So, I mean, without getting into too much of it, basically, people were not happy, or a couple of people were not happy, and that girl was trying to, can we get something done about this? You know, they don't have a permit. What happened to free speech?
Last installment of Change My Mind at TCU, that the school not only condemned our setup on public property, claiming it
to... before, I want to read something else.
Last installment. Yes. It makes you mad given...
So there was one from US Weekly saying, RPA culture apologist trolls TCU.
The largely productive and most...
There's a tweet here that says, Steven Crowder's discussion of our culture on TCU's sidewalk without campus consent was uncalled for. It's irresponsible to subject the public to this kind of highly sensitive topic without their consent. You could have easily just walked away.
Civil nature of the last installment.
This one says, how much money would it take from alumni like myself to privatize this sidewalk? To privatize the sidewalk. Oh, now liberals want to privatize things. How much money would it take from alumni to privatize this sidewalk? I think it's safe to say it wouldn't take long to raise enough so scumbags like Steven Crowder can't use our university as a backdrop for bigotry.
I've changed my mind at TCU.
And then finally, dear TCU, allowing a white, angry, cisgendered man, that sounds like racism and transphobia all in one. Telling a white, angry, cisgendered man, and sexism, to tell the minorities on campus that hate speech isn't real, that their suffering and oppression isn't real, don't think he said that, is honestly ignorant. Do better. If you want to not be known as the rich white kid school, do better. When, of course, we know the entire, I wasn't sure, get a different name, but welcome. And then, obviously, I don't know if you're changing that for whatever, so I don't want to call you by names that, welcome. We can see that the fact is they want free speech when it comes to things that they agree with. They want opportunities when it comes to things that they want when they want. But when it comes to the opportunity to sit and actually defend these type of ideas, they decide not to. Hey, so Trad Guy Travels is starting a channel. Awesome. So send me a link. We will drop that. Word up. Good luck with that. All right, moving on.
That the school not only condemned our setup on
we got one more. Today, Steven Crowder chose to challenge our students on a public sidewalk in front of the university. This is from the university itself. While the Constitution, somewhat important document, gives him the right to express his view, the statements he expressed do not align with TCU and its values.
Public property, claiming it to have literally adversely affected the health of the student body, but the school even went as far as to offer counseling to students who might have been faced with the trauma of someone politely expressing a difference of opinion. So to prove that the students are more robust than the administrators and their tweeters give them credit for, we had to go back. Only this time we were asked to apply for a permit for the safety of the students, which never transpired. Then we were asked to change location. Then we were told that our table and chairs would now be considered a public instruction. Keep in mind, this is the same school which a year ago approved the student permit before kicking us out anyway. So we decided that we'd roll the dice. Hate speech isn't real. Changed my mind.
Ask for forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission. There we go. This guy already with the at and the custom URL. Very, very cool. So here, let me. Since the bot is giving you trouble, we'll do youtube.com/TradGuy Travel. So go check out my boy. Awesome. I will definitely be checking that out later.
Hi. Are you guys having your mind change? Sure, yeah. Do you disagree with me? Go ahead. So on the outside, because we don't have a table.
All right. Person number one.
You mind
So based on his looks.
scooting in? Don't let me remind you about. Let's go together. These are cameras here. So these cameras are.
They said they said the tables and chairs were an obstruction, so now they just have to stand here. But based on this guy's look, I am going to, not be unfair, but I'm going to guess that he's going to stand up for hate speech, but he's not going to have any strong points. I think we're going to hear a lot of the typical basic entry-level arguments that we hear. Let's see if I'm right.
On you and myself. All right, great. I'm not going to bite you. You can come on in.
Don't worry.
No, I'm saying you don't worry.
See, I'm not going to bite. Don't worry. Like, don't worry. Already not a good sign. sounding very nervous.
We won't be able to see.
I'm a little nervous.
Okay, that's fine.
So-
So come in a couple steps.
Called it.
We'll meet in the middle. There we
Is
go.
this good?
Yeah,
We're
what's
gonna
your
like hug it out.
We will after.
All right.
Depends.
My name's Eric. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
So I'm experienced with a lot of like protests and things like that.
People being dragged out of cars and punched in the face. That
Something like that. So one time I was in. Did you hear about the May Day protest that happened about 3 years ago?
No, well, first, I guess before we did, you said, are you interested in having your mind changed?
I'm interested in changing your mind.
Changing my mind on hate speech.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me kind of establish.
Which is again a good point to bring up, because that is what the point of this segment is. That do you want to change my mind? I think that's what he meant to say. But yeah, the establishing that is the goal here is important. So Try Guy says, I love these campus visits, especially with the Owen Schroyer stuff. Not familiar with that. From old InfoWars days, when the wokes got triggered, it was funny as fuck. It still is, my friend. And I actually haven't watched this at all. Usually I will watch the video, skip through it just to make sure it's something entertaining. But I trust Crowder enough, so we're going in blind. I think we're going to get some of that today.
The definition of hate speech.
Okay.
So we both kind of agree on terminologies here because word matter. What I'm talking about is not that people can't speak hatefully. People can, and I would discourage that.
Yes,
what I'm talking about is any kind of speech that should be differentiated legally, as you see in the UK or in my home country of Canada,
Okay.
based on its level of offense or quote-unquote level of oppression. Not a real thing. Don't agree with it. If you disagree, you can change my mind.
Okay, so I think that there should be one problem I see in schools is the issue of having like racist thought and that sort of thing isn't like. I feel there should be limits on what should be said in campuses, just as in the senses of like if there's someone saying like blatantly racist things, I think it'd be better just for all involved so there isn't that sort of hateful attitude, just because it can lead to conflict that isn't necessary.
So you're just talking about like on a private campus.
I'm talking in general. Like if someone, let's say there's a member of the KKK that starts walking around campus and starts saying like, this is not my personal belief, but says like white people are the superior race. I don't think that person should be allowed to speak just simply because.
But why? Okay, but he's giving his reasons, because I disagree with that already. That if somebody is being racist, that not that they shouldn't be allowed to speak, but that people who can articulate why being racist is wrong should also have the right to challenge that idea.
It would cause violence, and I think
Only on campus.
I'd say on campuses probably not. Obviously, I know there's a Supreme Court case that allows that speech to happen. They can regulate time and manner.
Are you talking about?
So yeah, the question that Crowder's asking is, are you saying you don't want these people to be allowed to speak on a campus? Because now I'm going to take a wild guess and say that TCU is a private university. Is it that you don't want on campus that to be allowed, or are you saying in general?
In general, you're talking about the government shouldn't allow that person to speak that way. There should be legal consequences. Or are you just talking about the student on campus shouldn't be able to say that?
I'm talking on a student on campus because I know there is a Supreme Court case that says government can regulate time and manner, I believe, but on a college.
Okay, so that's, I still disagree with this kid, but that's at least less radical to say, well, in the confines of the campus. Try Guy says start consequence culture instead. Well, unfortunately, that's essentially what they're doing. Is that they're calling it consequence culture. They're saying, well, free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Well, but the consequences should be more speech. The consequence for speech can't be violence, because it absolutely does mean freedom of speech means freedom from violence. So when they say this consequence culture, well, those are just the consequences. If you lose your livelihood, if you get debanked, if you can't work anywhere, then that's just what you get. Now, depending on what you say, I mean, if people on their own decide that they don't want to, mess with you or whatever, that's on them. But to say, well, it's not freedom from consequences, and the consequences of saying the thing that I don't like is that I get to punch you in the face. That's not really how that's supposed to work.
Campus, I just don't think it's necessary for this kind of speech to happen because, again, there's not going to be a dialogue change if someone's obviously saying white people are the superior race. I think there does need to be some kind of limit, but obviously people do need to have their voice heard. So what I disagree with you is...
Are you sure that minds won't be changed or dialogue might not be raised by a racist doing racist speech?
I just don't think there's any benefit to having someone say white people are the superior...
Hey, we got Frankie D in the building. What is going on, brother? Said I disagree. If you are calling to wipe out an ethnic group in front of said ethnic group, well, exactly. Exactly. This idea that somebody can just go spew these horrible things. We're not at 20 minutes yet. These horrible things, and that people are just like, I never knew of this thing called racism that you talk of. I never knew that other people look at skin color and ethnicity and apply value to that. I'm going to go with that. That's what kids like this actually think is going to happen. Try Guy says, my version of consequence culture is not having your life ruined, just being known as the liar or dumbass you are. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think that is fair enough. Salute to you as well, sir. Welcome to the party.
Your race. When there's obviously people of color that have gone through strifes. Obviously, I don't believe that I've been oppressed before, but I think that if someone's saying blatantly racist things, there should be limits, and I don't think there's any dialogue
on campus.
Yes, sir.
What about in the country at large?
I don't want to sound like a racist if I say that, but I just don't think it's.
I don't want to sound like
I'm
a
trying to formulate a
racist.
good argument here.
Sure. Do you mind stepping back a little bit?
Yes,
Just because just come close to me here.
Okay.
If you don't mind, yeah. Just because we're very limited in where we can be as far as not, being obstructed to the sidewalk.
So even that comment that he made. Well, I don't want to sound like a racist. Well, are you a racist? Then why would you speaking your mind make you sound like a racist if you're not a racist?
Of course.
So again, we talk about on campus, on a public campus, publicly funded campus, you need to provide an equal platform to both political points of view.
Right.
But I asked you about the country at large.
The country at large.
So again, that's what I'm talking about here, hate speech. We're talking about legislatively. It sounds to me like you think there should be limitations on speech.
Not obviously, colleges are going to have their own rules. You've covered that. For the country at
You've covered that.
large, I think that it should be more of a taboo. Obviously, if you're a group that has racism,
It already is a taboo, though.
Exactly.
It's already a taboo to say white people are better than black people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's
I think everyone here
racist.
agrees. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I'm
already a
just trying
taboo.
to-
So what would you change? What's the issue? That's just offensive speech, but it's protected under the First Amendment, right?
That's true.
Okay.
And so this gets back to my main thing about if there is somebody here who believes that hate speech is real, which Dr. Evil Genius, I don't know if he'll stop by, but he mentioned that he does think hate speech is a real thing. And then the next question then is, okay, then what is the difference between speech that you don't like and hate speech?
I'm just a little nervous.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I said you said you already have your mind changed. So
So again, why are you? I mean, some people are not good with public speaking in general, but okay, then maybe that this isn't the best platform for you anyway. But after saying you're nervous twice and talking about not wanting to look like a racist, sounds to me like you're dancing around your actual opinions. That might be racist.
I assume that meant that you disagreed with something that I'm saying.
So just
like
like
you agree.
Yeah, just to clarify, so like you agree that racism is bad and no one should say that. What's your thoughts on that?
No,
Do you
I
think
agree that
people should be
racism is
allowed to
bad.
be racist?
Do I think people should be allowed to be racist? Sure.
Why is that?
But do you see you just coupled two very different questions?
Exactly.
Can you review that? Sorry.
Yeah. You said, do we both agree racism is bad? Yes. But then you, in that same sentence, asked me if I thought it was should be allowed, for someone to be racist.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yes to both questions. I think it's bad, and I think someone should be allowed to be racist.
So do you think there should be any, what is the benefit to allowing people to be racist is my thing. Why should the government protect that right is my question.
What is the benefit to allowing you to say that it's bad to be racist?
Well, I guess
Now I don't like the fact that Crowder answered a question with a question, especially when it's a very direct and easy answer, talking about, well, once you have the government saying, well, this is racist, so you can't say it, then that enshrines within the government the power to say, oh, that's racist and that's racist. And now we're talking about dog whistles, and now we're talking about this, and everything that they don't like becomes racist. So I don't like that he couldn't have just said that, but I'm sure he'll get around to it. Frankie just said, I dislike communists and socialists. Well, most isms and ists, but I do not try to stop them. I dislike what they say, but hey, speak. Exactly. If you've got good ideas, people will latch onto them. As we've seen, even if you have shitty ideas, people will latch onto them. So that's why everybody has to have a chance to speak, and the best ideas will rise to the top. Creighton goes on to say, if you tell me we need to get rid of Rom peoples, Romani. I think that's the accepted terminology now. That is hate speech. I still want them to talk so I know who to watch. That is exactly the point I made about Kanye. Before Kanye was on Timcast, there was not a huge number, but a significant number of people who were like willing to at least take him seriously in the context of politics. Then that happened. Okay, we didn't really hear from him, but it was, a showing. Then he goes on Alex Jones. Now, do you think there's more people who are willing to cast a vote for Kanye West or less people who are or Ye West? So it's good that we showed those views and that we were able to see what they really were. Let's back this up a little bit because this guy is terrible with keeping an idea straight.
What is the benefit to allowing people to be racist?
So again, that was the answer to what's the benefit to allowing people to be racist is because then we maintain the underlying value of free speech, and we can overcome that with better speech instead of coming down on people's rights. Hey, we got no freedoms in the building. What is going on, brother? What is good? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are watching Hate Speech Isn't Real. Change my mind.
Like my thing. Like, why should the government protect that right is my question.
What is the benefit to allowing you to say that it's bad to be racist?
Well, I guess my viewpoint wouldn't have, just to play devil's advocate, my viewpoint I don't think would cause harm. The problem I see with racism that it can cause harm to people, but when I'm saying
that's so simple-minded. Well, racism can cause harm, but making laws against what people can and cannot say is not going to cause harm. Okay, let's play that out. Yeah, racism can be harmful. Racism can hurt people's feelings. Okay. When you tell a government that they now have the right, which as a law, that somebody can't do something, what happens when they do it? Now the government is involved, and you can get arrested. You can be kidnapped from your home and thrown in a cage. What happens if you don't want to do that? A lot more harm than just somebody getting their feelings hurt. Ain't it? Frankie says, it's kind of funny that a guy called Jesus is fighting with the Jews. Yeah, right. And all right, so we got one. I kind of feel like no freedoms is just being contrarian here, but fair enough. So I was saying before, if you do believe hate speech is real, what is the difference between speech you don't like and hate speech? Or is everything that you don't like to hear hate speech?
I don't think you should be allowed to make bad comments on people's race. I feel like just from a utilitarian standpoint.
But the point is, right, the racist thinks that you're causing them harm. So my point is the benefit is allowing freedom of speech for all, even speech with which we disagree. Otherwise, it's not freedom of speech.
Okay, I understand.
Otherwise, how do you decide? Who decides what speech is permissible and what speech
There you go.
I suppose there's two ways to do that. One, you have mob rule, which kind of just decides and it makes taboos, like you were saying. Or you could also have the government, but the problem with there is obviously, like from your viewpoint, the government would therefore be the deciding platform.
Well, from your viewpoint, is there a problem with that?
It depends. Obviously, if there's obscene speech, if something's going to cause harm, like if you yell fire in a movie theater, you shouldn't be allowed to say that.
Well, that's not free speech.
Well, what if there was a fire?
So that's a call to action.
That's true. Because
that's actually because people can be physically harmed because you're lying about their. You can actually yell fire in a crowded theater, you know.
You can, but you'll suffer. You'll suffer. But
or if there's a fire, you're helping people.
Right.
But if you lie and cause a stampede,
that's your problem.
That's the issue. It's not the speech; it's the call to action.
Gotcha.
So you said you presume that I would have a problem with the government being in charge of permissible speech. I'm asking you, since you're the one suggesting that some speech should be allowed and some speech shouldn't. Do you think there's a problem with the government being in charge of determining permissible speech?
I guess it's just tricky, just because racism is such a touchy subject, and I'm sure like I'm gonna get just like kind of yelled at just because. Like,
again, guy, just talk. What is this epidemic of everybody worrying so much about how they're going to be seen when you're not even saying anything? Like this is a it's not like it's not like you're coming out on the side of hate speech isn't real. If that was your position, then okay, it makes sense that you're worried because you're taking the counterculture idea. But you're just latching onto the establishment idea. Yet you think you're being some truth warrior. And I have to be careful because, there's some people who won't like what I'm saying. What world do you live in?
I've been saying.
No.
But I guess
It's not really a touchy subject. Almost everyone in this country agrees, except for a few extremists, and they're
Yup.
talking about single-digit numbers,
Yup.
right? You could probably count them on both hands, feet, and maybe
Yeah,
if you were
that's
inbred, your flippers. How many people are actually racist in this country who believe that white people are superior to black people? It's not like
That is
you're
way
going to
too
get crap
long,
for that,
Joey.
right?
I guess my thing is like, maybe now that I think about it, I think that yes, it's like, can you say racist things? I suppose yes, but my thing is, should you as a person say that? No.
That's not what the question is. That is a completely and entirely different question. We're talking about laws. We're talking about legislation. Hey, we got Salty Plays in the building. What is good? What is good? By Salty's own request, we are here watching Crowder change my mind. It's hate speech isn't real. Change my mind.
I just don't think it's a good idea for you because we should just respect everyone.
Well,
because
not
that's
me. I
okay.
didn't say anything racist.
Of course. I'm
Right.
saying like you, as a just a general
Sure.
person. It's like, can you do this?
The royal
Yes.
you.
Should you do that? Probably not.
I
because
agree.
It's not a good.
And I think the more important question is, could you be a country or could you be a place like Canada, my home country, Canada,
Right.
or a place like the UK and Germany, and legislate speech that is offensive and put people in jail for it? Well, you can't right now in the United States.
Mhm.
Some people would like us to be able to. Should you? No.
Okay.
So that's a more important question. We agree on that?
I think we do. Yes.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
And I've watched your show before. I just wanted to be able to.
Oh,
see what
thank
it's
you.
like.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I
think
it was.
All right. Well, that guy was extremely boring. So hopefully we have something a little bit better coming up so far. But as we saw, this guy's main concern was, what are other people going to think of me? And as I predicted, very entry level. Well, racism is bad. So what's the benefit to having people be? Bro, that is not what we're arguing for. Yes, that is included in free speech, the stuff that you don't want to hear. But that's not what we're doing here. We're not trying to say, oh yes, racism, great. We want to make sure, we want to protect our right to racism. That is what the left thinks of this free speech argument. Because they don't know and they don't listen. But I'm a trad guy. Let's see what else we got. Let's see what else we got.
Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. I can't really shake your hand because I got.
Good.
Nice to
I'm
meet you.
actually on the speech and debate team here, so
Oh, cool.
I do this for fun.
Very cool.
All right, new poll. So do we think somebody who says, well, I'm on the speech and debate team. So she clearly knows how to form arguments. She knows how to, take what is being said and respond directly to it. So let's see if is she going to handle herself respectfully. That doesn't mean she has to be right. That doesn't mean that she has to change his mind. That just means that she can't dive into typical like modern woman type bullshit and leftist semantic obfuscations and get all emotional and see all of that. So I'm very interested to see. That's a weird thing to say before you know what's coming for you. So something says, why should we put people in jail for offensive speech, and how do we label it offensive? Exactly. This is the point that the last dude didn't think about. That you want to legislate speech as being offensive and put people in jail for it, and if they won't go to jail, then we already know that the government has a monopoly on violence. And so if they come to arrest you for a bad word that you said, and you said, I don't believe that that's a bad word. I don't believe that I shouldn't be allowed to say that. They can shoot you. So no, thank you. Frank says, I want to protect my rights to be, Frankie says, racist. Death to Mars! Long live the humans! Cheyenne says that tells me she's about to be a train wreck. No chick who says that she knows what she's talking about, especially women. Like one class in school is a qualification. Exactly. I've seen this play out way too much to know better. That's all he says. True. I debated my girlfriend on consortium, and she's on the speech and debate team. She not only lost, but she not only lost, but time she got all emotional. Yeah, but in time she got all emotional about it. That is exactly what I'm expecting here. Let's see.
Awesome.
I just wanted
So,
to like.
yeah, let me kind of. Sorry, do you mind stepping in just because we don't want to cause an obstruction? Just we're like right here. Yeah, if that works, okay. I don't bite. I'm not aggressive. This is what you might have read in the college paper. When I'm talking about hate speech, I'm not talking about people speaking hatefully. People can say hateful things. Obviously, I'm talking about any kind of speech that's differentiated or should be differentiated legally based on its level of offense cause or quote unquote oppression.
And that's really the crux of the question. It's not about are there words that people find offensive. That's not the question. The question is legally, is there or should there be a different category for certain types of offensive speech and other forms of offensive speech?
Not a real thing.
Saying that it can't happen, then that's hate speech, or
Yeah, I'm saying in the United States, the definition that's used, for example, on campus quite a bit, or what was allowed against me, for example, for the rape culture isn't real, I was accused of hate speech. That's not real. It's not a thing.
okay.
If you disagree, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
I'm just like concerned about your definition because like the Merriam-Webster definition of hate speech is like speech that is hateful based on someone's like race, gender, or sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying it like differentiates from like the normative definition.
I'm talking about a legal definition here in the United States.
So okay, so just the legal definition. So what someone.
So she's doing good so far. Just want to take. I'm actually gonna. She's speaking kind of quickly as opposed to the other dude. So she's doing a good job. First of all, taking down. Okay, what are the definitions? What exactly are we talking about? Are you talking about just hateful speech, or are we talking about a specific legal definition? Got that? Now we are on the same page. So she wants they want the legal definition.
Can go to jail or be fined for.
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
I believe that any kind of speech that would be differentiated out from under the umbrella of freedom of speech
Okay.
doesn't exist. I don't think there's speech
There you
offensive
go.
enough
Okay.
or egregious enough to warrant any kind of legislation.
So unequivocally, like all speech is protected.
Yes, speech, freedom of speech.
Freedom
Yeah.
is okay. A few questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Let me let that loud truck
Oh,
pass.
thank you. I appreciate you being so considerate.
Oh, anytime. I 100% agree with you that free speech should be protected. I'm actually from Russia, so like this is like a very personalized issue for me.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible
In Russia, speech frees you.
over there.
I'm
few
from
questions.
Canada. It's terrible over there too.
Well, that's. I think I disagree with you there.
Oh.
I just wonder, what about like fear mongering, like speech that is a call to action for violence to
What about it?
occur, like the
Sure.
speech or the rhetoric that was perpetuated in like the case of the Pulse nightclub shooting, like hateful speech that like mongers fear.
Yeah. So, what speech are you talking about that led to the Pulse nightclub shooting?
Perhaps religious rhetoric that insinuated that is okay.
Perhaps from whom?
Specific religion.
Okay.
It was an Islamic terrorist who like had like a perpetuation of like fear mongering and free speech. That
You're
led
talking about
into-
the Pulse nightclub shooter himself.
Well, certainly, but like there are
Or him being
religious
radicalized.
institutions as well that use their free speech in order to like perpetuate hateful rhetoric.
Sure.
I'm just going to say that if you are in a legitimate debate in your school and you're saying, well, what about this that happened? That's not how these things work. You need to have a point. Otherwise, what are you doing? Just saying things. That's all she's doing right now. Hey, we got Tyler Smith in the building. And yeah, I am not mad at it.
So let's define hateful rhetoric.
Okay, rhetoric that is that like it's difficult to define. Hateful rhetoric is something that
He said define hateful rhetoric. And she said rhetoric that is hateful.
incites like
What is-
anger within. I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
I'm on the debate and speech team. Well, like on the bench?
So how would that be defined legally?
I think that anything that discriminates against someone based on their sex, ability, or disability, sexual orientation, or gender can be considered hate speech.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's something that should be an actionable offense, should be limited or controlled or legislated by the government.
You're a smart guy. You've heard of like Superior Wharf, right?
I hate her. I hate her already. You're a smart guy. What is the purpose of a statement like that? What is the purpose of a statement like that? If he knows he's smart, and you're agreeing with the fact that he's smart, then we all know that he's smart. Something tells me that's not what you were doing. So he says, why do people have to involve beliefs with the actions of people? Just because someone is a Republican doesn't mean they own a gun. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, but you're much more likely to own a gun if you're a Republican than Democrat. So, it depends on what you're talking about. Try Guy says you got to have specific examples. Can't always be like, source, trust me, bro. Exactly. Hey, we got Just a Cock in the fuckery in the building. Welcome. How are you doing, girl? It's been a while. She said, well, at least she was honest when she said, I don't know at the end. I mean, fair, but she came, I don't know if you saw the very beginning, but she came in and said, well, I'm on the speech and debate team, so just to let you know, that's the energy she came in with.
Like, language constructs reality.
So actually, I'm going to back that up a tiny bit.
It's like anger within, I don't know.
Okay. So how would that be defined legally?
I think that anything that discriminates against someone based on their sex, ability, or disability, sexual orientation, or gender can be considered hate speech.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's something that should be an actionable offense, should be limited or controlled or legislated by the government?
You're a smart guy. You've heard of like Sapir Whorf, right? Like language constructs reality. I feel like even if speech is protected unequivocally, oftentimes that speech is misconstrued and that rhetoric becomes violence. That's like what happened with Hitler. It was fear-mongering. Like,
speech is violence.
That wasn't really misconstrued.
I don't think that people...
Yeah, it's not like people misunderstood, like Hitler wrote whatever, and then they started killing all the Jews. He was like, wait, no, that's not what I meant. No, it was not misconstrued. It was very clear what Hitler was saying.
Perhaps
I think Hitler was pretty clear about what he wanted to do.
I don't think he told the masses, like, I'm going to go kill 6 million Jewish people. Like, I don't think that was, like, his initial message.
It was his initial message,
Yeah.
He eased into it.
There's this thing called the final solution. Pretty clear.
Certainly.
But I think to compare Hitler's, for example, his rhetoric and being a part of, the National Socialist Party of Germany, comparing that to someone who might say something that someone could misconstrue as hateful and use as inspiration to commit an act of violence is not at all the same. So I guess, you said you had some questions for me. What would be an example of speech that you think should be controlled or legislated by the government?
If someone tweets out, you should go kill this person because they're gay.
That's already illegal.
Of course. Yeah.
Isn't that free speech?
No.
Okay.
No, we already have laws in the books for that. And that's because it's an active call to violence. It's the action. So, for example, you could say, I hate Steven Crowder. That's fine.
Certainly.
You could say...
No shit, bro. He was leader of the National Socialist Party. Yeah, right? He'll be like, wait, are you guys sure? I know what I was saying, but I don't know. That's literally what this girl just said. I'm sure she doesn't think it. I'm going to give her that much credit. But that is what she said.
Yeah, you could say, I hope Steven Crowder gets, gets stabbed with a pitchfork. Okay, that's probably fine. Or I hope he gets run over by a car. You can't say, go run over Steven Crowder with a car, or I'll pay $500 to someone who runs over Steven Crowder with a car.
Okay.
It's the call to action. There are already laws in the books.
So you're
That's
drawing
not
the line
speech.
at the call to action. Okay.
Well, the law draws a line at an active call to action, yeah.
So, okay, in 2016 during the election at TCU, people went around on bulletin boards writing the 3/5 compromise needs to come back. Would that be considered hate
The
speech?
what? What was it?
The 3/5 compromise needs to come back.
Okay.
Would that be considered hate speech, or like would you protect that?
His position is that hate speech doesn't exist. So if you want to consider that as hate speech, then it is your position now to describe why there is a difference between that being a vile thing to say and it being quote unquote hate speech in a legal context.
Would I protect that? Well, I don't know what your rule is on shocking or painting or whatever it is, but do I think that those students should go to jail? Do I think that they should be fined by the government? No.
Okay, so you think that like...
I also think, was it at TCU that there were people talking about the eight words? I'm talking about the neo-Nazi, you're talking about that 8888.
Probably before my time.
Okay, that's probably that. Or poop swastika, which was proven to be a hoax.
Does anybody know what he's talking about?
So, no. Yeah, I think people should be able to say things that are wildly offensive, whether it's racist, whether it's, quote unquote homophobic. I think I have no problem with it. It doesn't mean I agree with the point of view.
Okay.
I think it should be freedom of speech for all. I believe in the First Amendment, or then you have to determine for me what the line is.
But what about like the repercussions of that speech? Like,
Where's the line? I guess because I noticed that you have a lot of questions.
What about the repercussions of that speech? Okay. What are the repercussions of that speech? Is it the fact that people got offended and didn't feel great? Then nothing. Then nothing. People get offended by things. That's what happens. If it's, somebody enacted violence because they heard this, that, or the other, then we deal with the violence because we already have laws and rules around that. I don't understand why this is such a complicated thing. Ring says, following along the same train of thought here, a hate crime literally punishes thought. Exactly. It's saying that this is the same exact argument with hate crimes. That to take a what I'm trying to do, to pew someone is bad. But if you think a certain thing about them, then legally that's worse. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? If bad things are bad, if bad actions are bad, and as a country we punish actions, then what does your thoughts on it have to do with anything? Like I said, this is a result of arguing out of your feelings. Her teacher failed her by giving her a passing grade. Oh, rough.
When I ask you questions, you answer with a question.
Where's the line?
Where's the line for freedom of speech? Right? What do you disagree with me on? What do you want to change my mind on?
I think that certain expressions of free speech lead
She starts talking before she even knows what she's going to say.
to violent actions occurring.
Okay.
I think that it's very hard to say that there's no correlation there.
No, I didn't say there's no correlation.
Okay. But then how do we exist in a society when we're allowing people to directly influence or indirectly violent actions occur?
Well,
There's a very simple answer to that. You come up with better ideas to make sure that they don't think that anymore. And if they do things that don't follow the laws of the land, you take them out of society in a thing called jail or prison.
very big difference, isn't there?
Please explain.
You just said directly or indirectly.
Directly or indirectly.
Yeah. So directly.
So the call to violence is illegal. So if you're calling someone to violence, then you're going to go to jail regardless. You're going to get a fine, whatever.
Right.
But what if your speech, the rhetoric that you're putting out to the public, is the reason that eventually a hate crime occurs? Shouldn't you be held to some kind of penalty for that?
No. The person who did the violence should be held to account for that.
So could you give me an example of what kind of speech? Because again, I gave you an example of direct. So I think this is important because you said you're in the debate team?
Yes.
Right. So direct and indirect are important.
Yeah.
Right? They're antonyms.
Yeah.
Right? So direct, like I said, would be kill Steven Crowder with your car. Okay? What would be an example of indirect hate speech that would lead someone to commit violence that you believe needs to be controlled?
Great question.
If someone is constantly tweeting out racial slurs,
well, I was trying to go with the Steven Crowder example, but let's say I'll say this. Someone says black people are inferior to white people, or someone says black people are inferior to Asians or Russians, whatever. Take your pick, okay? And then someone later on. That's the sound of losing an argument.
Guys, really quick, if you could do me a huge favor, if you haven't done already, please hit the like button. That's the biggest thing that helps us in the algorithm, and it's free. So thank you very much.
So someone says something racist.
Okay.
Down the line, someone says, I was inspired by this racist statement to commit an act of violence.
Okay.
Okay. What's your view on that? Is that what we're talking about as indirect?
I think that correlation is what's dangerous. I think because language constructs reality, because what people are putting out there is oftentimes the reason why certain actions occur. I think that there's not necessarily limitations or censorship. I don't believe in that at all, but there has to be a line drawn at some point.
Well, if you're not, did you just say that you don't support any kind of legislation or censorship, but there does need to be a line drawn?
I don't support censorship. I certainly don't think that the government should be interfering in what's put out in the media, but I think that's different than what someone's tweeting out. If someone's tweeting out, I'm trying to draw a distinction, but I don't think you're getting me. That's fine.
No, I think I am getting it.
Again, with the fucking the fucking condescension. You're talking about how all of these things in a legal context that you don't think should be allowed Then you're saying, well, I don't believe in censorship. Then you're saying, well, you don't get it, and it's fine. Listen to it again. The level of condescension is.
I don't believe in that at all, but there has to like be a line drawn at some point.
Well, if you're not, did you just say that you don't support any kind of legislation or censorship, but there does need to be a line drawn?
I don't support censorship. I certainly don't think that like the government should be interfering in what's put out in the media, but I think that's different than what someone is like tweeting out. If someone's tweeting out this violent, like, I'm trying to like draw a distinction, but I don't think you're getting me. That's fine.
No,
Yeah, because you're not explaining it. So if somebody puts in a newspaper, the government shouldn't be involved. But if somebody on Twitter says something, then the government should be involved? Is that what you're saying? What is it that you're saying? Because that's the reason we're not understanding. That's the reason we're not getting you.
I think I am getting you.
Okay.
You just said you don't support any kind of legislation or censorship, but there does need to be a line.
Exactly, Try Guy.
Drawn. So what do you mean by line?
Like decency, humanity. I think that
I
like
agree.
yeah.
That's so vague. What you consider to be decency and humanity may not be what other people consider decency and humanity. Did you not see that?
I agree.
It's so simple. Just like decency and humanity. You just want to be decent. You want to be a human being. Like, I don't get it. Like, can we just do that, please?
So I don't understand what you're arguing then.
That is very clear.
I'm talking about hate speech as legislation, as it exists in my home country of Canada. As you said,
But
Russia.
what are the laws in
or
Canada?
UK.
I'm not familiar
So
with them.
we just talked about this with, I believe Nick was his name. In Canada, you can be fined for hate speech. I have a friend who's a comedian who was put before Human Rights Tribunal for telling a joke. In the UK, it's over 3,000 people per year alone. Just recently, a girl was charged with a hate crime for posting Snoop Dogg lyrics on her Facebook page because it included the N-word.
See, all of these things, I'm sure that she would be like, well, yeah, of course, they were terrible things. Of course you gotta, whatever. But what she doesn't understand is that once you set this precedent, that hate speech is, well, it's not decent, and it doesn't follow decency, and it doesn't follow humanity. Well, because it's so ill-defined, then somebody who doesn't like you can say, I'm just going to, again, take a random guess and say that she's probably in favor of Schmashorschen and say that I'm going to get a procedure today. And somebody could knock on your door and say this is hate speech because it's supporting the idea of killing babies. So now you're arrested. I'm sure that you wouldn't be in favor of that. But everybody is so solipsistic and only sees the world from their own perspective and can't see past their own fucking nose, that this is what you get. This is a level of argumentation. Try Guy says, Russian Demi Lovato, good one. I'm trying to get you to understand that there needs to be a line drawn. Also Russian Demi Lovato. It doesn't tell where a line should be drawn. Yep.
I'm sure you're familiar with Count Dankula, the dog that did the Nazi salute, right? So in other countries, you can be charged, convicted for criminal behavior based on speech.
Yeah, that's totally good. We shouldn't be allowing that.
Okay.
We have the First Amendment, so we don't have that here. The term hate speech in those countries is used to create that line, which, by the way, the authority has been granted to their government. In the United States, thankfully, hate speech doesn't mean anything. It's not a legal terminology. Lots of people would like to change that.
Okay.
That sounds like she does too.
That's what I'm talking about. But if it seems like we agree, if you don't believe that the government should have any role in legislating speech at all, and you're good with it, then I think we agree.
No. Okay, so if someone were to draw a swastika in our comments, is their speech protected?
Yes. This is not complicated, honey. This is not hard. Is it accepted? Is it something that we would cheer on? No. Is it something that we think that person should be arrested for? Also, no. That's it.
Well, hold on a second here. Speech is different from freedom of expression. And a lot of people say freedom of...
No. I think that they're very intimately correlated.
No.
Like, people express their speech through different aspects. Yeah.
No.
For sure.
No, legally they're not the same thing. So that being said, the campus, of course, can do what they want.
Okay.
Especially if it's a private campus. Yeah. They can do what they want. Just like a private business can do what they want.
Oh,
I brought up Twitter earlier. But freedom of expression is actually not in the Constitution anywhere. Freedom of speech is. And the reason for that is, as you said, people express themselves in different ways. Some people can express themselves in ways that are very destructive, physically, as a matter of fact. Matter of fact, even if you look at artists, they actually often
Go
do
lay
things that are
down.
physically damaging, if not to their own bodies, to other people. Speech by itself, speech is not destructive to that degree. That's why freedom of
Speech by itself is not destructive. Speech by itself is not destructive. That's it. Frankie says, for the record, the swastika is a very common cultural symbol. Iranians, Japanese, Scandinavians, Indians all have it. Yep. That's a very old symbol. And now, again, that doesn't mean that I suggest that you go out and draw them all over the place. But, Hitler did kind of ruin that. But that's exactly the point. It's exactly the point. Is that speech or even expression by itself is not destructive. And the notion that people in general are so weak and able to be manipulated by mere speech is scary, because on the one hand, it's kind of true. Not that changes that the government should be stopping speech, but we just saw the other day the guy who was on the James Corden show and got everybody to draw the star in the circle. People are definitely suggestible, but still, the point is, despite all of that, we still need free speech over everything.
speech is protected in the First Amendment under the Constitution, and freedom of expression isn't. So I'd like to keep the conversation to speech, because that's what we're talking about.
So speech, the things that people utter,
the things that people say.
Perhaps on the internet. I don't know if you think people are exercising their freedom of speech on Twitter.
Yeah, we're talking about the written word.
Written
we can
word
put
and
written word.
Utterances.
Yeah,
That's
written
totally
word
fine.
is speaking. Yeah. Which is important, because that's actually an important delineation because of libel versus slander. But so sounds like you agree that speech shouldn't have any limitations. The government shouldn't put limitations.
That's two in a row that really came in, and they kind of agree.
Several points that we agree on, but where we disagree on is that I believe that oftentimes hate speech can be the catalyst towards violent crimes and violent actions and acts.
Of course it can, but a catalyst is not the same thing as the thing that it's catalyzing. Whatever the word is. If something is the cause of an effect, then definitionally it is separate from the effect. If you are saying violence is the effect from the cause of speech, and you're saying sometimes, then actually what you're saying is there's a correlation. And what do we know? The number one thing in science about correlation is that it is not causation. Hey, we got Mike W. in the building. What is good, brother? Said, I do not want speech controlled. Example of someone who owns a restaurant and is racist. I want to know that, so I won't go to his restaurant. Exactly. Try Guy says, she just wants to be right when she's wrong. Don't they all? Try Guy goes on to say, trying to find a way to twist the conversation so she can somehow sound right. And you get a liberal, and you get a woman in the same person. Yikes.
Of hatred. I don't think we're agreeing on that point.
Okay, so how do you fix it?
So let me back that up, because I think
is that I believe that oftentimes hate speech can be the catalyst towards violent crimes and violent actions and acts of hatred. I don't think we're agreeing on that point.
Okay, so how do you fix it then?
Perhaps begin a culture where hate speech isn't normalized. I feel like hateful rhetoric has become normalized recently, especially in the status quo. People believe that they can put anything out there or say anything without any sort of punishment. Not punishment. I don't think people
Let's see there, Rebecca.
that's what we want. That's exactly the point. To be able to speak freely without having to worry about punishment. How horrible. How horrible that people are not being punished just for utterances.
You keep kind of contradicting yourself there. Punishment would mean punishment.
Legal.
Yeah, I mean you're in a debate, right? What does punishment mean?
It depends, the body of who is putting the punishment.
But the person who would
yeah.
be administering punishment would have to be in a position of authority.
Perhaps it could be
versus
Twitter bots who are regulating Twitter. Or
Well, that's more we're talking about colloquialism,
Okay.
but we're talking about actual punishment, right?
Okay.
You said without punishment. Punishment would have to come from some authority figure, right?
Okay.
Someone has the authority to punish somebody else.
Okay.
So that would be
I think that you're
Government?
parametricizing hate speech as something
Government.
that, like, I don't buy your definition that it's only like what can be legislated as it is in Canada. Like, hateful rhetoric exists.
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
So exactly. Hateful rhetoric exists. That's different than categorizing something legally as hate speech. Just like hateful crimes exist. But that is different from enshrining hate crimes into law. That is precisely, and I think that's right about what he's about to say. That is the argument. That is the conversation. It's like saying, I want to paint my house. Should I go red or blue? Well, you should definitely paint your house. Like, okay, yes. We've gotten beyond that. So he says, this is the definition of a person who would complain about oppression and then go support it. Oh, man.
I said that right at the outset. People say hateful things.
But you said that hate
back that up.
that it's only like what can be legislated as it is in Canada. Like, hateful rhetoric exists.
Like, yes, I said that right at the outset. People say hateful things.
But you said that hate
But they
speech
should be
is
allowed
only
to.
what should be like what in the status quo is like legislated or like laws are placed upon.
As far as what we're talking about today, hate speech as it's lobbed on this campus. For example, let me give you kind of a jumping off point. The reason we're back here, I was accused of hate speech.
Okay.
For the last time I was here on this campus,
Okay.
where the son said rape culture is a myth.
Well,
changed my mind.
I will actually say that I like entirely disagree. I think you have a right to be here. You have a right to like engage in peaceful discourse with students. And I think it's kind of ridiculous when they start screaming and crying and can't control their emotions.
So again, it sounds like you agree, but instead of just having the conversation, you are trying to win an argument.
I appreciate it. Thank you. But a lot of people said that was hate speech.
Okay.
So it serves to illuminate that many different people have different lines of what determines hate speech.
Okay.
Just like in completely a different context, people have very different lines in determining what is the start of life. And so because that is arbitrary, then we only have one place to say where life begins. Similarly, in this context, because different people draw different lines of what determines hate speech, then those are all arbitrary. And so we have speech and we have violence. Okay, Morty, this motherfucker's dying over here. You good? We have speech and we have violence. She's trying to conflate the two. Frankie says, I miss old liberals from the 20s. Yeah, that was like the Republican Party 40 years ago. Trad Guy says she's unwillingly dissing herself there. Yep, and it's...
That's why it has to come down to some kind of a legally identifiable definition.
Okay.
In the United States, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
I agree with that. I'm pro hate speech not existing as a legal term. I'm pro First Amendment. I am never going to disagree with anyone who says that some people speak hatefully. Now, you keep going back to sometimes people speak hatefully, or they use hateful rhetoric, and someone misconstrues that to commit an act of violence.
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, still think that's protected.
So you think that like religious leaders, like let's say like Ayatollah Khomeini, who constantly goes like death to America and constantly perpetuates rhetoric that like Americans are...
You keep bringing up different examples as if it's going to be different. Honey, the idea is that the hate speech doesn't exist. So whether you bring up swastikas, whether you bring up people yelling racial slurs, whether you bring up somebody who's perpetuating death to American rhetoric, the answer is going to be the same. It's not like you're gonna pick something and he's like, I never thought about that. Actually, yeah, the government should come down on that person and lock them up at the threat of violence. Come on.
Or like Western invaders who are horrible and deserve to die. Like, is his speech protected if Iran didn't have such terrible laws?
Well, I think I was going to say, I think it'd be more fair to use an American example like Louis Farrakhan.
Okay. Do you think that his speech is protected?
His speech is protected.
So when people like religious zealots go out and commit crimes like in the name of their religion, like...
Those are the people who are doing something wrong in terms of the law. not the person who is simply speaking.
Like
rhetoric that
Islam?
Unless the person speaking is directly calling to action. It's not complicated. It's really not. Words, good. Violence, bad. That's it. Try Guy says a lot of times people need to have things repeated to them multiple times in different ways to understand them. I believe that's what's happening here. She's still trying to process the concept. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's a much more charitable interpretation than I had, so let's go with that.
Incited that violence should continue to be protected?
Yes. Now, unless it's a direct call to action. For example, Louis Farrakhan goes out and he's called Jews everything, I think, from the white devil to mongrels. He's been very anti-Semitic. He has the right to speak freely, absolutely. Now, if someone goes out and says, I killed somebody or I beat up a Jewish person at a pro-Palestinian protest because Farrakhan called them white devils, Farrakhan's speech is still protected. You think it's not?
I certainly believe that if a nation isn't doing anything.
Or the question there would, a better question there would have been, do you think his speech is, a better question there would have been not, do you think his speech is still protected? Because of course we know that it is, but should his speech still be protected in that case? And then when she of course says no, then we go to why.
To stop like the rhetoric that's inciting these horrible like shootings at synagogues, like perhaps the person who like did the
okay, how do you do that? How do you stop rhetoric?
Shooting heard like some inflammatory or fear-mongering rhetoric like in advance. I just like don't understand
violence. Did you guys see the violence? Look at the violence. How dare she?
Like some inflammatory or fear-mongering rhetoric like in advance. I just like don't understand how we continue to allow this type of like rhetoric and speech to exist in the status quo when we know that it directly correlates and directly creates and incites violence. Like, how do we as a country like?
Well, first off, we don't know that it directly correlates to violence. What we do know is that if you look at every single major free rights, human rights movement in the United States, it started with speech.
Okay.
It started with speech from minority groups. Whether you're talking about the civil rights movement in the 60s, whether you're talking about, or even more recently, where people would use, gay marriage as an example, it starts with people in the minority who are afforded the same rights as those in the majority to speak freely. I believe that those minorities should be afforded the exact same liberties and freedom as anyone who's in a majority, regardless of how many electoral votes.
Hey, we got Lil Toes in the building. What is going on, brother? Says, yeah, threats and harassment. Yep, that's and those are the things that are not considered free speech, but that's already the law. So I don't. It's so clear. It's so clear and simple. Mike says, IndianJesus spews hate about Christianity. I'm trying to think, because I try very hard. I know you're joking. But I try very hard to be, even the banner that we have here about our own chat is that we want to attack ideas. We do want to be, dare I say, hardcore when it comes to, does this make sense? No, then get it the fuck out of here. Does it make sense? Then fuck yes, we want to be hardcore about that. But we attack ideas, not people. And that's why I will go hard on Christianity. Long before you will ever see me go hard on somebody for being Christian. That doesn't mean that being Christian means that you're never going to get the smoke, but you're going to have to start it. Like those of you who've been around long enough for Henry, Henry got the smoke, but that's not because he was Christian. Many of you are Christians, and I love you very much. But the fact is that's where are my fucking mods? Come on, guys. Does anybody here have a wrench? Nobody here has a wrench. All right. I got to get it. All right. Who here? We're going to go with Salty. Salty is a moderator. Okay. I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? I don't remember. But yeah, the idea is that we attack ideas, not people, because that is how we move the conversation forward. And hey, we got I am that I am in the building. Welcome. And welcome, buddy. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. Yeah, we can get Little Toes and Salty have been around for a while, but I got advice from somebody to never give a wrench from somebody who asked for it. So I'm gonna need more as time goes on. So just keep showing up and be legit, and you will get that wrench. I'm gonna need more and more and more as time goes on. So let's back this up. And because Mike, who was it? Mike? Who said that? Yeah, Mike made a great point here. That made me pause and think: am I, do I get hateful about this stuff? And I think that I can be I openly hate Christianity and organized religion, but I have zero hate for somebody just because they are religious or just because they are a Christian. And I think that's a big difference. Will do. Triger says most people don't know how not to attack the person and just argue a point well. That is why we are here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. So here, let's back this up just a tiny bit.
Your free rights, human rights movement in the United States started with speech.
Okay.
It started with speech from minority groups.
Well, that's what I was saying. Track guy, is that Henry got the smoke because of Henry, not because of what he believes in, because he's a fucking dick who thinks he knows everything about everything. And I don't hate that guy. I feel sorry for that guy. I feel very sorry for that guy. He is angry. He is lost. He is somebody who thinks that he has all the answers to the things in his life, and you can see that he's projecting on other people because he's dealing with things in his own life that the guy from Darshan's channel. The fact is that's he's not a happy person, and he took it out on me, and so yeah, he got the smoke. But it has nothing to do with what he believes or anything else. It has to do with the fact that he said the things that he said to me. And then I said, Christians and Muslims want you to believe what they believe. I don't give a damn what you believe, as long as you leave me alone. That's what I'm talking about. Will Toes loves Henry. Then why does that not surprise me? Try Guy says he thinks he has the keys to life. DJ Colin asks, we number one. All right.
Whether you're talking about the civil rights movement in the 60s, whether you're talking about, or even more recently, where people would use gay marriage as an example, it starts with people in the minority who are afforded the same rights as those in the majority to speak freely.
Speech.
I believe that those minorities should be afforded the exact same liberties and freedom as anyone who's in a majority, regardless of how many electoral votes they represent.
Okay.
So I think it's, if it comes down to what you're talking about, you said we continue to allow. That's actually interesting language to me, because we don't allow anything. I mean, if we believe in the First Amendment, right, we don't grant basic human rights, birthrights.
Okay.
The term inalienable, I'm sure you're familiar with, means these rights come from
God.
Yeah. Let's just say the universe. Let's see if you don't believe in God.
Okay.
Right. The point is,
there we
not
go.
By government, they're not granted by Supreme Court. They're not granted by voters. It's a birthright.
And I actually want to stop. It's not great that I'm not on camera. My dick's out right now, but. The fact that Stephen, a very devout Christian, was able to very quickly switch the wording from inalienable, meaning that our rights come from God, to say, well, if you're not comfortable with that, then just see the universe. That means a lot to somebody like me. Somebody who, is going to be turned off by the notion that there has to be a God or whatever. But simply just saying that one little comment of, oh, okay, well, if you don't believe in God, you still experience these rights. You still are to be respected in this manner. It's little things like that allow me to, as an atheist, to appreciate these messages. Oh, she been speaking, bro. She been speaking. She's not agreeing at all. They are definitely fighting to the death. You just gotta just stick with me. Trust me, bro. Have I ever led you astray? Trust me.
So when you say we allow this hateful rhetoric,
Yeah.
we're not allowing anything. People are speaking freely, and we can't interfere with that. That's what our basis of laws is. I mean, it's fundamental.
Do you have any like? If I were to bring to you a study, I don't have it, but I assume
Okay.
studies on both sides that show everything exists. If I were to bring you a study that said that there's a direct correlation between hateful speech and violent crimes,
Yeah.
you would
What
say
was the word? A direct causation or a direct correlation? Let's listen again.
that said that there's a direct correlation.
A direct correlation. Okay, so there's a direct correlation between hateful speech and violence. So then you're telling me, you are telling me that because there's a correlation, not even a direct causation, but a correlation between a certain type of speech and violent acts, that we are going to upend the values that created this country. Shit happens, homie. Shit happens, honey. Like, I'm not excusing people's behavior that do things that are, you know, great, but that aren't great. But the fact is, you're never going to have a perfect world. Remember that one black trans that I don't remember what you're talking about. Yeah, and it's like the words that you're saying in your own argument are proving that your position is weak and that you haven't thought it through. It would have been better for your case to simply not even have this conversation. So should not even explain the direct correlation thought. Trust me, bro. Yeah, well, we got Salty Place boosted the server, so you can now put videos directly in the chat. You don't have to use links for a certain size. So thank you again. Thank you again to Salty Plays for winning the November Discord contest and putting all the money that he won back into the server. This month, we are having a $100 contest. So if you're not already in the Discord, the link is in the description below. And nobody's really taken it. We got a leader so far, but nobody's really taken a lead. And the month is marching on. So maybe tonight we'll do some Jackbox, get you guys some cam up points, and get you closer to that $100.
Between hateful speech and violent crimes.
Yeah.
You would say that nothing needs to be done and we can just allow that continue to exist in the status quo.
Link in the description.
I would ask you, what do you think needs to be done? Let's say you have that study and it says hateful speech. First off, we need to define hateful speech. Something offensive?
I think hateful speech, like the definitions that I've seen from like Merriam-Webster, Oxford, like directly state that this hateful speech is like targeted towards minority groups, like normally, like that's what it's defined as.
Okay. So
so now we're even getting further away from anything rational or realistic. So you can have hateful speech, and it's directly correlated with violence. But if it's not directed towards a minority, then it has different legal implications. You're getting further and further and further away from anything that uses that has anything. You're just getting further away from a position that anybody can latch onto. So Frankie, hit me up on either Instagram or Twitter. I got my social running across the bottom. I thought you were already in there. But either way, hit me up and I'll make sure you get in there, because you shouldn't have to. You should be able to use your email instead of your cell phone. For mine, you should just need either a cell phone or an email. Either one should work.
it could be like conservatives on college campus.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Does it include, for example, someone posting Snoop Dogg lyrics to their Facebook?
That's where I think that there's a problem. I think that people misconstrue what hate speech is. Like when it's truly like ridiculous, like people like take it out of hand. People can't control their emotions. People are.
That's what we're asking you about. You're the one who says this thing exists. And then you keep asking about things that don't fit the category. Like, well, people, don't really understand what it means. Do you?
Enraged by like stupidity, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
But you understand, for example, with Count Dankula, the dog we just talked about. You think
Certainly
those are
that person
absurd?
shouldn't have been put in like prison for that. That's
right.
absurd.
But these are the most modern examples.
Yeah.
Right. The more severe example, like you mentioned, being from Russia, would be Stalin.
Yeah.
Would be Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
So the best examples we have still resulted in unintended consequences and gross violations of human rights, and they're all in the freedom of speech. There is no good example.
Okay. So do you think it would be a slippery slope if the United States implemented laws for hate
Yes.
speech?
I think it's the only place left that actually, well, first off, it's a place that created freedom of speech as we know it, and it's the only place that exists.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing, and I don't think that should change.
Okay.
And I don't think that should change regardless of whether there's a study or not that would say someone says something.
Frankie, this is exactly why you want to join the Discord, because this Discord is a private community where unless somebody reports something that we're doing illegal, like if somebody's posting CP, right, then that can be reported and the server can get taken down. But other than that, it's not like there's anybody watching our server. So I'm the supreme leader over there, and I'm not looking to ban anyone on anything. That's why I want No Freedoms to come join, because he keeps talking about how he wants 80% of the population to be done. And I'm like, I can't have that conversation. I'm very interested to hear what you think about that, but I can't have that conversation on YouTube. When it comes to Discord, we can say whatever the fuck we want, and there is nobody who is going to give you shit for it. Will Toes, yep, you hit the nail on the head. Like says, there's no way she can explain hate speech. Proof, it doesn't exist.
Hateful,
yep.
And there's an increase in violent crime. Let's go with you on that and say that that's true. I think that the good far outweighs the bad. I think there's a far greater risk in limiting people's individual freedoms and granting the authority as to what's permissible as it relates to speech to a centralized government.
So do you think the good speech can outweigh that bad speech and like those violent crimes? Like I'm trying to like understand like.
I think that's the best way to combat hateful speech. Yeah, is good speech. I just don't think it's the government's role to step in and say what kind of speech is permissible.
Yep.
And it sounds like you agree.
I do think that, like, I'm drawing a distinction as to, like, I truly believe that there's a correlation between the two, and if we're not doing anything, even as a people or as a government, legislating, like, some
Okay, so there we go. This is this is kind of the debate thing. Right?
Yeah.
We're going round. Now it comes down to the truth, right? You said, as a people, we need to be doing some kind of legislating. What legislating? And what speech is worthy of legislating?
I don't think we have a good country to take an example off of. I don't think anyone's done it properly. I think that they've taken it either too far, like the Count Dankula example that you continue to bring up. Like,
okay.
So then maybe we should just have the laws of free speech like we have for centuries. And that's it.
But
I brought up several examples.
Yeah,
do you want me to cycle through them again?
No, we're good.
Okay, good. Because debate, you're misrepresenting me there, but go ahead, continue.
My bad if I'm doing that. I don't believe that we can exist in a country that respects democracy and equality if we're allowing people to continue putting forth hateful rhetoric that incites violence.
Okay, so.
Holy shit. Talk about rhetoric.
Again, I ask you, what legislation? You've already said you are okay with, you think it would be a superior choice to give the authority over to the government to legislate speech. How so?
Well, certainly we don't have like a really great definition of hate speech thus far. Like any.
Oh my God. Just answer the question.
Hateful rhetoric is totally
biased.
biased.
So you define it, because I'm not the one advocating legislation, right? You are. So you define it. We should legislate blank kind of speech that we're not right now.
I think speech that has the ability to incite violence. But again, how do you weigh that? I think that it's a tricky...
Which is what? Which is what? What is it the thing? What is the thing that you're trying to say? I think we should do things that are bad. Okay, what are things that are bad? Like anything that's bad. Okay, I agree with you. Okay, what are the things that we should talk about that are bad? All the bad things. Okay, well, can we get a little bit more specific? Yeah, just anything that's not good. That's what this conversation is. We're speeding this back up. I gave her credit when she was...
balancing act that hasn't
How do you weigh that?
I am not a politician, nor am I part of the legislature in the United States, so I would...
But you're willing to give...
So you're willing to come up and talk about your ideas and talk about how you think that this thing is real and willing to argue with somebody who clearly you know of. But, well, I'm not a politician. This is like, what was it? Kenji, whatever, Brown, when asked, what is a woman? Well, I'm not a biologist. Okay. relevance.
That power over to the legislature.
If they properly implement laws.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
How would they properly
So,
implement? No one
yes.
I certainly don't think this is North Korea. I don't think people should be imprisoned for like exercising their free speech, but I do think
We get what you don't want. We get what you don't think. What is it that you do think?
that we need to draw a line in order to stop these like incendiary forms of speech from perpetuating throughout the masses.
I guess I'm
Drag
saying,
guy
what
on
is that
point.
line?
What is that line?
Yeah, what is that line?
That's very difficult to say, and now I understand why you say that hate speech isn't real. There's no real definition of hate speech that exists in the status quo that can be applicable to like legislative.
And as you acknowledge, everywhere else that it has been applicable has been terrible. From the extreme examples to the most moderate examples.
Mm-hmm.
You just said no country that has basically incorporated what you're proposing as sort of vague legislation right now.
Yeah.
No country has done it well.
So you said the United Kingdom had 3,000?
About 3,000 per year.
Okay, do you have a statistic showing how many of those are like righteously like deserved, or is it?
That is arbitrary. That is subjective. That is not a scientific measurement.
Well, I don't think that any of them are righteously deserved
Okay,
outside of
that's
actual
fair.
threats of physical violence.
Okay.
In other words, so again, that's what's most important. I don't think any example in Canada of a comedian being fined or put before the rights tribunal was okay. But again, I'm not the one proposing legislation. I'm good with the First Amendment. You're the one who is proposing a change, but you can't draw the line as to what should be permissible and what isn't permissible. But you're willing to give that huge swath of control over to the government. And I'm sure that we can both agree that's a very dangerous idea.
So what if we had a group of like, let's say we had an epistocracy like who was gonna take charge of hate speech, like the best of the best, most intellectual people who were like define hate speech as something that's like parametricized to be accurate and like functional. Would you be okay with that?
Who picks the group?
I don't know. We take a
So just like everybody else, you have this idea of this utopian notion, but when it comes time to actually give a practical answer as to how this will work in the world, in the country, how to roll this out, you have no fucking clue. And that's fine. But don't act like you have all the answers when you clearly don't. I don't get it. Where do you get the fucking balls to stand up in front of all these people and say, I know, when clearly you don't know? Trigger says she wants to give him, she wants him to give her the answers she's supposed to be giving him. I think that is extremely accurate.
The smartest 2% of the nation is like taken, and they get to decide what is hate speech and what law should be put forth.
So this is based on the premise that the smartest 2% of the population would be the most effective at preserving laws and the liberty of
Perhaps not
individuals.
preserving laws, but like
Or creating laws?
Creating laws.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree that only the top 2% of intellectuals should be in control of birthrights, the people's right to freedom of speech.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that I understand correctly. We disagree, and I appreciate being respectful.
The only reason she would say the top 2% of people should decide is if she thought she was in the top 2% of people. Because we already established that it's very clear that she wouldn't be happy with her expressing her opinion on Schwarzorchen and that being considered hate speech. She would not be okay with that. But that has not even occurred to her. Whereas people like us, who have constantly find ourselves on the quote unquote wrong side of a political issue, it's just, it's privilege is invisible to those who have it. And equality feels like oppression to those who have privilege. That is all that we're seeing happen, play out. It's just in the context of this question, is hate speech real? Like says, she doesn't know what she believes. She only believes what her professor told her. Welcome to college.
We disagree on the idea that there should be some legislation on speech. You're not exactly clear as to what that line is,
Okay.
but you're willing to give that. You're willing to give that role over to not necessarily the government, but an appointed board of the top 2% of
That's certainly a
Americans.
hypothetical, but I do think
Okay.
that we should take people who are like highly intellectual and know on the subject, like communication scholars, sociologists, like
Communication scholars. So that chick who has a liberal arts degree in communications is now going to determine what you can be locked up and subsequently murdered by the police for. No, thank you.
people who directly study humanity and communication and the power that it has.
Yeah. Well, we said the founding fathers were intelligent.
I do think the founding fathers are intelligent. I moved to this country for a reason, but I do also think that they were part of the elite. And
What reason is that? Because of freedom of speech, among other things? Then why are you arguing against it?
perhaps didn't know what it's like to be part of a minority group.
But can you name me a tool, I guess, that has been used more by minority group to improve their lives than the freedom of speech?
Freedom of speech has certainly helped them, but it's also harmed them when the majority uses it against them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, but you do understand if you're offering that power over to a government, right? And you mentioned democracy or constitutional republic, but it would be even worse if we were democracy, right?
Yeah.
Now you have mob rule. You have people who are in charge of determining speech laws. You say that's even more difficult? Then you have, for example, Nazi Germany. Yeah, not necessarily, I wouldn't say majority, I don't want to misuse the term, but a plurality, right, at that point. For example, in Canada, we don't have a two-party system, so you can have someone elected who's 38% of the vote. A plurality of the people who believe in one particular set of, they believe one worldview, and they can implement that in minorities, right? As you saw in Russia, as you see in the Castro regime. That's dangerous. So allowing anyone to determine what basic fundamental human rights are permissible or allowed to use language, it's antithetical to the founding fathers' view of government. The whole reason for freedom of speech is so that the majority, as mob rule, can't infringe on the rights of the minority.
Yeah, but I came to America because I just wanted to twerk and live my truth and all that stuff. So I don't really care about what you're talking about right now.
And I think the same freedom of speech should be afforded to everybody, whether the majority or minority, because that's ever changing. And we both can agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my point of view, and it hasn't changed.
I think I agree with you on most things, except for great representation of our campus. I do appreciate the respectful discourse. I think we agree on a lot, but also disagree on very little. I don't think I'm going to change your mind, but I do think that this was good discourse.
Before we move on,
I'm going to go ahead and disagree and say that it wasn't a great discourse. It was a great opportunity for him to show, for Crowder to show why his position is correct and why it is very obvious that your position, Miss Speech and Debate, is incorrect. Now, again, we have to take a step back and remember that this is what Crowder does for a living, and he's on a college campus. That's not done by accident. It's very easy to get somebody who is high on that, on Mount. Remember, we look all the time at the Dunning-Kruger chart. It's not hard to find people who think they know a lot and don't know anything. But he's not forcing anybody to sit down. He's not forcing anybody to continue the conversation. So, I mean, this is America. Try, guys, to send Russian Demi Lovato on her way. She is done. Her parting gift is a loaded needle so she can slip back into her alternate reality. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let's let her go. Hopefully we got somebody else to clean up.
2 seconds to plug Mug Club. What is Mug Club? Well, it's what allows us to continue producing these videos due to demonetization and shadow banning. Not only do you get this wonderful hand-painted, hand-etched mug and get to support the kind of content that you're watching right now, but you get to watch the 1 hour daily show as well as all of the content available at CRTV.
Yeah, thank you to Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, everybody for the content. Everybody go check their shit out.
LouderWithCrowder.com/Mug Club. On with the show. Now, it's important to note that the point of Change My Mind is not to debate, rather to rationalize one's position. And sometimes common ground just is nowhere to be found.
Oh boy, common ground nowhere to be found. Uh-oh, sounds like we getting spicy.
So you would be okay with restricting freedom of speech? You would be okay with restricting or creating actually speech laws if that were voted on by the masses?
If the masses want it, absolutely.
More on that in a second, but sometimes you find kinships in the most surprising of places. You work on the Hillary Clinton campaign. Would you mind coming up and talking about this? All right, my hands are icicles. What was your name?
My name is Felicia.
Felicia.
If you were in the Discord or if you hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, you can send it to me. Actually, yeah, everybody, stop what we're doing. Do you guys not use Twitter or Instagram? There's 2 of you that follow me. IndianJesus off, official. IndianJesus off. Go follow me, Instagram and Twitter.
All right, so at the end of this interview, it's going to be an easy later. Bye, Felicia. Sorry, this was my water. I did not spit. I swear to you, I moved it. That's what happened.
No, you're just going to spill water.
No. I wanted to recreate it. I didn't spit.
I'm just kidding.
Oh no, this is gonna end badly. We're gonna get to that bye, Felicia, sooner than I thought. I'm joking.
No, it doesn't even bother me anymore.
I bet you people do that all the time.
Because it's as soon as you show somebody that something bothers you, then they're just gonna troll you.
Bye, Felicia.
Which is why you keep coming here, right?
No, it's not the troll.
It's trolling is cool.
No, we're not here to troll. So you just mentioned that your boyfriend was.
So again, this is the assumption. This is the assumption. You can't possibly think that hate speech is not real. This must be a troll. It can't possibly be that you think something so differently than me. And even she's being polite and friendly and lighthearted, but she genuinely thinks that. And so do so many others. You can't possibly have this opinion. You would be an evil, horrible person. So you must just be trolling.
Fan.
Big fan, biggest Trump cruise. He loves Steve King. He asked me to bring a Steve King sign.
Really?
You know, for y'all who don't know, he's the congressman in.
I was going to say, who's Steve King?
Third or fourth? I can't remember.
Oh, why would he ask you to bring that?
Because he loves Steve King.
All right.
Anyways,
Okay,
yes.
but you
So
said you worked on
I
the
worked on
Hillary
Hillary Clinton's
campaign.
campaign as a field organizer in Des Moines, Iowa.
And you said that you've never been more disappointed.
I've never been more disappointed and embarrassed by the people who claim to share my same values.
How so?
I like where this is going.
At some point, when you disagree with somebody or you don't like what they're saying, that doesn't mean that you just have to start attacking them. You have to figure out a way to intellectually come up with your argument. Stop putting shame all over what people work tirelessly for to make life better. At the end, I mean, that's like from the left and the right, everyone.
So and I guess that would relate kind of to today's topic, where you see a lot of people on the left, or did you see a lot of people at the campaign going, I can't believe what this person said, that should be hate speech?
I can't remember what sort of non-disclosures I signed at the beginning of the
All
campaign.
right, you were disappointed.
But I was just, as far as the specifics, as far as our weekly communication calls, where all we were told to do was to attack Donald Trump weekly on communication calls as to pivot away from whatever controversy Hillary found herself in.
Yeah.
So from there, you can just see it seeping down into teenagers alike. It's embarrassing. I'm ashamed.
Well, don't be ashamed.
I'm
You don't have anything to be ashamed of. I
literally
appreciate being honest.
hate the fact that I want to be able to call myself a progressive or a liberal or a Democrat, but all that happens is people will just assume that I'm going to come over here and scream or spit or rip or cry because I don't like what somebody says.
Right.
Now, that strikes me as very, very, very interesting, because for those of you who've been here for a while, you know that I was not super politically initiated. And then 2015, I got swept up in the mainstream media, became a Bernie bro. Then the DNC fucked over Bernie. And I felt like I had no option but to vote for Hillary Clinton. And that was the most shameful thing that I've ever done in my life. So this woman is coming from the complete opposite direction, saying that she wishes that, she's down with Hillary Clinton. It's the people who are the leftists, the ones who are the culture warriors on the left, the ones who are specifically out there fighting the cultural wars, are making her embarrassed, because that's what we would expect. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Right.
Hate speech is just speech. It's mean, yes.
Right.
There are social norms that we should try to
Let's
abide
go.
by. Just don't go around calling people bad words, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean that you should get thrown in jail for
It
it.
doesn't mean the government should legislate it.
There's assault, which is a whole nother,
Right, a call to action.
Exactly.
So it's interesting that you say that you're progressive, kind of more liberal. I don't want to. So you would like to be able to,
I
but
would
because
love to
you're
be
so
able to
concerned
sit
with.
here and say, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat, I'm this, I'm that, but the fact that that label is now associated with something so radical, at some point you can try to be so inclusive, so this or so that, but you just exclude people. I was an active member and donor of our county Democratic Party, and at some point I didn't agree with Nancy Pelosi. Didn't want to go see her. I think she's a terrible choice for Speaker of the House. And I was told just to go to a Republican meeting.
Really?
Yes. So at this point,
That's crazy to me. I would have thought that most Democrats don't really like Nancy Pelosi. She's just a necessary evil,
well, but you're not supposed to go and acknowledge the fact that they're wrong, are you?
You're talking about the woman who was denied.
That was a little bit of a, not a slip, because she obviously meant to say it, but that was very telling. You're not supposed to say it. You're not supposed to express any kind of dissent. Not supposed to express that the Democratic Party isn't just completely perfect. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. Sounds like she's getting red pilled. Now, I don't know how far away that is, and that distance can be the difference between, okay, well, I'm going to try to be progressive in a different way from the establishment. Because remember, we've talked a lot about how there's a big difference between people who vote Republican, who are more considered conservatives, and the Republican Party politicians. as well as on the left, you have a very different group of people who are voting blue and the people that they are voting for. So I think, you know, you have like, if you the words that I use, the Democrats and the Republicans are the politicians, and the leftists and the conservatives are the voters. Now, of course, you have people who are right down the line in line with the establishment, but I'm speaking obviously of those who are not of that ilk. But yeah, it definitely sounds like she's waking up to the bullshit that exists in the establishment. She may be taking a detour and thinking that she can fight it, but hey, we were all there. We were all there at a certain point. And then it says California is solid blue. There is no choice. Well, they're in Texas, so there's a lot of hope there.
Communion. The previous pope. So even I think it was the previous pope was like,
You wouldn't. It's terrible.
So you got flack for that, and they said, well, you might as well be a Republican. Does that sort of tell you that maybe the current Democratic Party, like, they're more narrow-minded than, I would say, I don't want to say
I just
Republican,
don't
but
like
the
to generalize it that hard. I'm really against the generalization.
Frankie, I'm waiting on that
Really
follow.
Concepts. Like I said, like why I don't.
Trying to help you out, bro.
Group of people that I.
Oh,
But they
shit,
kicked
did he
you out.
actually-
They kicked me out.
Yeah, I know, but
My boyfriend Connor, who you said hi
Oh,
to,
you did follow me.
says I'm in an identity crisis.
I think so a little
It's
bit.
hard.
Let me ask you this, because you seem like you're a supporter of the First Amendment and freedom of speech.
I am a supporter of all 5 articles of the Constitution.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you right away that disqualifies you from being a modern Democrat.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: Who
Oh,
you
gotcha,
feel
gotcha.
on a national platform in the Democratic Party represents your values as they relate to things like freedom of
I just
speech,
saw it, Frankie. I got
individual
you.
Liberty. It seems like you're against identity politics, obviously.
It's hard for me to say, you know, this one person stands. Sorry, just stands
I'm
for.
taller. I've got moose height, so I can stand here. Does that help you?
No.
Okay, you want me to move?
That's right.
Okay.
I can't name one person on the Democratic Party that I would want to, you know, stand there and lead us to victory in 2020.
No.
Name one person. I think that if Amy Klobuchar
I think she meant 2024, but
out of Minnesota, anybody?
Klobuchar, Jesus.
Would denounce Keith Ellison just as, you know, everybody tries.
That was an odd, kind of an odd spell with the Me Too and then Keith Ellison.
Okay, it's hard to justify that in an argument, but I would say currently she's kind of my favorite centrist as you can get Democrat.
Okay.
I think that if she could just denounce Keith Ellison. I'm waiting, kind of worried maybe she didn't do it because she was worried about her reelection. So
Okay.
now she's been reelected. Hopefully she can come out and denounce Keith Ellison.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. What was your name again?
Felicia.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
forgot to do that. I'm not going to say the by Felicia thing. I appreciate you standing here and discussing Felicia. Now, in contrast to that, some folks at these events just can't be reasoned with, want to take up all of the time at the podium, and just will not let you go, even after the conversation.
I appreciate that, brother.
I appreciate that you go on for a while.
All right, so it looks like we're about to get into the main event of the evening. So this was the guy in the cold open that they're saying coming up. And clearly we saw a little bit of what he was saying. And this seems like he's going to be another dude who is extremely coming in hot. Be like, how dare you say these things? Without really knowing what exactly it is that Crowder is saying. And then he's going to make himself look foolish. So let's take a moment. Let's cheers to dunking on a dumb college student and get into it.
But let me kind of laser in on this question. So you would be okay with restricting freedom of speech? You would be okay with restricting or creating actually speech laws if that were voted on by the masses?
If the masses want it, absolutely.
Mob rule. If the masses want slavery, no problem.
Really?
If the masses, and again, I'm wanting legitimate masses, what the bulk of the people in the
Legitimate masses as opposed to illegitimate masses? Is it the masses? That means the majority of people. So if it's not the masses, what do you mean legitimate versus not legitimate? You're already just fucking throwing words in there that don't mean anything. Let's start that again. Let's just already you're getting on my nerves. But let's back up.
Even after the conversation has ended multiple times. I appreciate that you go on for a while, but let me kind of laser in on this question. So you would be okay with restricting freedom of speech? You would be okay with restricting or creating actually speech laws if that were voted on by the masses?
If the masses want it,
It's my job though, so I get a pass.
absolutely.
Really?
Not that I didn't use it. endlessly before, but it is my job now.
If the masses, and again, I'm wanting legitimate masses, what the bulk of the people in the country want. Yes, I absolutely would. And I'm actually going to use conservative logic for a second. And
Are you though? Let's see. Okay, so is that conservative logic? Let's see. I'm not even going to put the poll up until he talks. But let's see. The question that I'm about to put is that I'm going to use conservative logic for a minute.
And conservatives frequently say, if you don't like it, leave. I'm not saying if you don't like it, leave, but I'm saying that the typical logic is if the multiple of people want something from both sides, typically that's what everyone says should happen.
No.
Can you give me an example?
The First Amendment.
Again,
Doesn't matter. You don't get to vote on it.
Humans still chose that.
Wait a minute. That was so. I was ready for like a whole thing. I was ready for. I missed the point that he was even trying to make. Let's try that one more time. That was embarrassing.
Give me an example?
The First Amendment.
No wait.
Again,
Doesn't matter. You don't get to vote on it.
Humans still say if you don't like it. And I'm actually going to use conservative logic for
All
a
right,
second.
let's try this again. We're gonna go word for word, sentence by sentence.
Conservatives frequently say if you don't like it, leave.
Okay, so he's basing this on if you don't like it, leave. Fair enough.
I'm not saying if you don't like it, leave, but I'm saying that
So he said he's using conservative logic, and conservatives often say if you don't like it, leave. But he's not saying if you don't like it, leave.
the typical logic is if the multiple of people want something from both sides, typically that's what everyone says should happen.
All right, well, I gotta slow this one down. This guy's just babbling out of his fucking asshole. Third time's a charm. We got this. He may be autistic, but we're gonna figure it out.
And conservatives frequently say if you don't like it, leave. I'm
Okay.
not saying if you don't like it, leave, but I'm saying that the typical logic is if the multiple of people want something from both sides.
If the multiple of people, I think he means the multiplicity. So if the majority of people want something from both sides,
Typically that's what everyone says should happen.
No.
typically that. So he's saying if what? Typically, if something happens on both sides, people want something. That's typically what happens. One more time. One more time. If multiple people want something from both sides,
That's what everyone says should happen.
No.
Can you give me an example?
The First Amendment.
slavery.
Again,
Doesn't matter. You don't get to vote on it.
Humans still chose that. Humans
Moving the goalpost. You said what people want is what's voted on.
still wrote the First Amendment and said, yeah,
And that's
this
the
is
basis
a law
of
that
this country.
matters.
Yeah. And it's the only country that has the First Amendment.
And it's still a human that said that. Humans that said that. And humans were the ones who said this law is inalienable. As you said, this law is, this right is given to us no matter what.
Facts,
Humans
Frankie.
still said that. And humans still absolutely have the right to change
I think if you're just saying that all laws should just be determined by mob rule, particularly freedom of speech, I think it's really a scary thought. And I disagree with you.
I will qualify
Because guess
what I
what?
said.
Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and a Senate majority right now can determine that what you say is hate speech.
I will qualify
don't agree
for a
with that.
second. I will qualify that not just straight up mob rule, but mob rule and actual evidence-based science, critical thinking, things like that.
Yeah, no.
What? What?
I disagree. I disagree. I don't think that people should be able to vote.
And you're welcome
on
to
the
disagree.
freedom of
You have the First Amendment right to disagree at the moment.
At the moment.
Absolutely.
But you'd be okay with someone taking it away?
As long as it's taking away things that hurt people, as long as it's taking away things that we as a science know does lead to lower well-being.
Okay, so I am telling you, based on my scientific self report that is accepted in terms of how we measure these things, that by you expressing that you should be able to come down on my speech and restrict my speech like this, that is frightening to me, and it's giving me a traumatic experience. So, do I now get to determine what you say is hate speech? Because harm was caused. That effect, it lowered my well-being. You see, they like to use these general, vague, nebulous terms. But when you try to nail them down to what exactly is it that you are saying, they don't have a fucking clue. You listen to them, and their whole energy is just.
How dare you?
That's it.
Does eventually incite hostility and eventual hate crime, which I know hate crime, hate speech, not the same thing, but does eventually
Well, they are the same thing in the sense that they don't exist, or shouldn't.
lead to that. That does become a problem, and that's where the discussion needs to happen: is what speech is protected, what speech is not protected, when it does lead to problems that does affect the prosperity of people and the prosperity of our country.
Yeah, I think it's very. I think you've just laid out a very subjective definition and left it in
Yup.
the hands of not only mob rule but then eventually bureaucrats to determine a fundamental human right. I just don't agree with you. But I appreciate taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with me.
Thank you, man.
And unfortunately, you've not
I hope-
changed my mind. I've not changed your mind.
Well, my goal wasn't to change your mind. Your goal was to change mine. Mob rule. I just
Again, I
it's
say
very-
rule of the masses and
Yeah.
critical thinking.
That's semantics. Well, not mob rule, just the rule of the masses. That's exactly what we mean by semantics. So he says, okay, so why are we suddenly basing everything on the emotions of people? This is why countries like China are years ahead of us in technology, because we are busy crying instead of working. Facts. Super facts. They just not know the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know what that means.
Thinking
You don't
and
get to vote.
scholarly
You don't
pursuit.
get to vote on a fundamental human right.
Yeah, we chose the rights.
If we decide to vote away the come to this guy, because it seems like this was I would have to imagine that this was recorded before the Roe v. Wade stuff, because that is such an easy thing to be like, okay, so then you're fine with people in Texas and other states voting away abortion rights. Like, well, no, that should be. I want good things. So I'm a good person. You want bad things. You're a bad person. Mike says the majority of prisoners vote to get out of here, right? China is not ahead of us in tech. Aren't they? I mean, TikTok has a way better algorithm than Instagram does. I know that for sure.
We can choose to get rid of them,
There you go. Well, I guess that's a very different worldview.
and that's fine.
I'm not okay with anyone removing your rights at all. I'm not okay with anyone stepping in and saying you don't have the right to believe what you believe or speak freely. But you're okay with someone walking in and telling someone what they can and can't say. That's terrifying.
What I'm not.
And as a sociologist,
That is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying, because it's not just him. It's not just him. It's not just one guy. This is the prevailing position. This is what Crowder is fighting against. And right now, the Democrats are in power. Right now, all of these things that they want to enact go in their favor. What they don't understand is that politics isn't always what it is right now. And you're fine. You're 20 years old. You don't fucking know any better. I didn't know any better at 20 years old either. But if you give the government all of this fucking power, then what the fuck do you think is going to happen when the people who don't like what you're saying get into power? Oh, you didn't think about that. Oh, okay. Now that makes sense.
Psychology major, it is striking to me.
I'm not a
that you don't-
psychology mate. I'm not
I
a
said
sociologist.
Sociology?
Psychology. I thought you said
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay. So let's go with psychology. Is a
That's even worse. I told you. I fucking told you. People who are psychology majors are fucking weird. Every one of my classes, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? These people are fucking weird.
psychology major. Do you not see the grave risk, the much more grave risk, in centralizing the power to a government or allowing it to be tossed to a vote every single time? Because that changes that cultural fabric. A fundamental right like freedom of speech, as opposed to allowing people to speak freely. Do you not see historically the
Can you
mass
go back to your
violence?
first question before you mention the psychology, sociology? Because I'd like to talk about that before I do mention that real quick.
Well, I don't. Okay.
No, could you remind me of it so I can make sure I'm responding correctly?
I just the question before I mentioned.
Yes.
I don't remember what the question was. So my
Okay.
question is this: I'm surprised. as someone, you said you're a PhD candidate,
Yeah.
so you're obviously a very smart person. How you don't see the grave risk, the much more, historically, just the unbelievable risk of violence associated with centralizing the power and who determines speech and what's permissible.
It could backfire. It really can.
So before he gets onto that, I want to come back to this. And then I'm saying, what tech innovations has China created? They can't even produce a car that the world wants. TikTok. No? I mean, you may. I don't know either way, but TikTok seems to be a significant addition to the technological capacity of the world. And then, yeah, going back to what we were saying earlier about this guy's position is that two wolves and a sheep will when they're voting on what to eat for dinner, mob rule doesn't really get there fast. Just a cat says China is catching up. They're still recycling what the U.S. discards. And then I says China imitates, not innovates. I gotta come back to TikTok. I mean, and I'm asking. I'm not telling. How is that not the most forefront of technology? Now, maybe their military technology isn't on par with America's military technology, but we're talking about consumer technology. Frankie D is exactly right, saying TikTok is way too influential. And it's not because they're forcing it on any of us. It's because the algorithm is goddamn good. It fucking shows you exactly what you want to see. Hey, we got Kelly Green in the building. Welcome to the party. Said China recycling in the worst way by polluting more than 4 combined countries under it. Can you elaborate? Oh, I just saw this one. Kelly Ridgen said China just now is able to make a ballpoint pen themselves. I don't know about that. Everything that we have that is you can pick up anything and it says made in China. I'm pretty sure if you go over to China, they're not questioning and scratching their heads on like, ballpoint pen. How do we make this work? So maybe they're not producing cars and ballpoint pens because they don't need to. They have TikTok. I just need the argument against TikTok. Because that social media is clearly the biggest thing that is affecting the changing of the social and political landscape. And if TikTok is the most powerful one of them because of the algorithm, then I need to hear how that is not them being technologically advanced. Frank says, for the record, that's how you innovate. You take exactly. You take an idea and improve it. Worked well for the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Americans, the Chinese, the Russians, the Germans. Did you say that? Yeah, I mean, that's what science is. It's standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before you. And man says, they might have written a good code, but who created the code? That I have no idea. So if it's America, then I take it back. But Sully says, and also Wi-Fi and cellular service is faster in China than it is in the U.S. Is that due to limitations on how much they can actually use, though? That doesn't necessarily, in and of itself, means that the service is better in China. It just means, or potentially, and again, I'm asking, I don't know. But if they're only allowed to use, 1 gigabyte a month, then yeah, you got all this bandwidth and you're only allowed to use a tiny little thing. So, see, hey, this is what we like. This is what we like. People who can come in and are happy to give their opinion and then are willing to listen and say, hey, that's a good point too. Or if I'm wrong, then come at me and be like, nah, bro, you're wrong. So Kelly, you are in the right place. I am glad to have you. Glad to have you. And again, as Frankie said before, You know, Eminem says that they imitate, but as Frankie said before, that's what that is. Israel has more patents than China. Okay. On things that people are using every day in America. Again, asking, not telling. So he says, is that result of them imitating us or result of them improving on somewhat flawed technology? TikTok gathers info for China, unlike Facebook and Twitter. Well, exactly. But the point being that gives them a better product. That gives them a better algorithm. Hey, we got indie film in the building. What is good? What is good? Good to see you, buddy. And God created the code, of course. Wow, wow. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we got one more here. Absolutely, self-awareness is key. On point. Exactly. 6.7 is I guess you mean billion Israelis versus 1.5 billion Chinese. Yeah, I don't really know what that means. So let's back this up just a little bit and see where we're going with this.
Make sure I'm responding correctly.
The question to a government or allowing it to be tossed to a vote every single time, because that changes that cultural fabric. A fundamental right like freedom of speech, as opposed to allowing people to speak freely. Do you not see historically the mass violence? Can you go back to your
first question before you mention the psychology, sociology? Because I'd like to talk about that before I do mention that real quick.
Well, I don't. Okay.
No, could you remind me of it?
So actually, let's go back and see what the question was.
And that's
I'm not okay with anyone removing your rights at all. I'm not okay with anyone stepping in and saying you don't have the right to believe what you believe or speak freely. But you're okay with someone walking in and telling someone what they can and can't say. That's terrifying.
What I'm not.
And as a sociology major, it is striking to me.
I'm not a psychology major. I'm not
a sociology. I thought you said
psychology.
Psychology. Okay.
So we wait. We missed it just. So yeah, he was just talking about not being okay with anybody removing.
I'm not okay with anyone stepping in and saying you don't have the right to believe what you believe or speak freely. But you're okay with someone walking in and telling someone what they can and can't say. That's
so he's just bringing up the hypocrisy that you don't want somebody infringing on your speech, but you are happy with telling somebody else what they can and can't
terrifying.
say.
What I'm not.
And as a sociology major,
and so that's when he brought that up.
It is striking to me.
I'm not a psychology major. I'm not a
sociology. I thought you said
psychology.
Psychology. Okay. So let's go with psychology. As a psychology major.
And then notice how dude was like, well, it's this, not that. Blah, blah, blah. And he was so focused on that.
Do you not see the grave risk, the much more grave risk, in centralizing the power to a government or allowing it to be tossed to a vote every single time? Because that changes that culture.
Always glad to have you, Indy.
Right, like freedom of speech, as opposed to allowing people to speak freely. Do you not see historically the mass violence? Can you go back to your first question before you mention the psychology, sociology? Because I'd like to talk about that before I do mention it.
So what he is asking about, what the guy is asking about is, can you go back to the notion that you said that it's okay, you don't think it's okay for people to infringe on your speech, but it's okay for you to tell other people what they can and can't say. That's what he's trying to get to. So I guess neither of them remember that that's what was said, but that's what they were.
Well, I don't. Okay.
No, could you remind me of it so I can make sure I'm responding correctly?
The question before I mentioned
yes.
I don't remember what the question was. So my question is this. I'm surprised, that's when you said you're a PhD candidate, so you're obviously a very smart person, how you don't see the grave risk, the much more, historically, just the unbelievable risk of violence associated with centralizing the power and who determines speech and what's permissible.
It can backfire. It really can.
It always has. Can. It's never not.
But eventually,
it's never not.
I would like to see
it's never not.
Can you point me to any single country that has restricted freedom of speech that has done better?
I simply asked you for the source.
Okay.
Can you give me the source?
Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia.
Anytime somebody has not presented an argument, a claim, or a source and asks you for sources, it's them fucking buying time because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're buying time to try to get you to talk more so that they can think. If you don't have your own sources to debunk what is being said, And this isn't official debate where you are supposed to have it. It's just a conversation. Where are your sources? Well, show me the sources. Well, do you have competing sources? What are you going to do when I show you the sources? Don't do that, guys. It will look bad for you. It will look bad for you.
Make sure I'm responding correctly.
I just, the question before I mentioned
Yes.
I don't remember what the question was. So my question is this. I'm surprised, as someone, you said you're a PhD candidate, so you're obviously a very smart person, how you don't see the grave risk, the much more, historically, just the unbelievable risk of violence associated with centralizing the power and who determines speech and what's permissible.
It can backfire. It really can.
It always
absolutely
has.
can.
It's never not.
But eventually,
It's never not.
I would like to see evidence for that.
Can you point me to any single country that has restricted
I'm sorry,
speech that
I
has done
simply
better?
asked you for the source.
Okay.
Can you give me the source
Nazi
on that?
Germany, Soviet Russia, Castro, Che Guevara regimes, current UK, Canada, Maoist China. Need I go on?
Absolutely. You said every country.
You do need.
Can you provide me an example?
The question was, need I go on? He asked for a source. The sources were provided. And then tongue-in-cheek, Crowder said, need I go on? As if his point wasn't already made. And dude smugly says, well, yes. Why? You asked for sources. I gave you sources. I gave you examples. What is it that you have to say here? You're just saying things. Listen to it again.
Maoist China. Need I go on?
Absolutely. You said every country.
Can you provide me an example?
Every
Can you provide me an example with one country?
I'm sorry, but you said every. This is the
Every single
Cope harder, bro.
country that has limited freedom of speech has resulted in a net loss
Sorry,
for
but
human
the
freedom.
emphasis is on you for that. You were the one
Okay,
who
I
made
just
that
provided.
claim.
Okay.
He just named like 5 different ones. If you're to say that this is philosophy 101. If you are to say that X never happened, then to debunk that claim, you only need one example of X happening. You don't need to go through every event in the history of the universe unless you are saying the opposite. Unless you're saying there has been, if you're saying something like, no rock in the world has 2 different colors, then you have to go to every single rock in the world and determine, okay, this one, because only that one rock debunks that statement. He's on the opposite side. He doesn't even get that he has already lost. Oh my God, this is embarrassing.
Okay, let me put it this
one.
way. Every single country that's not the United States
Okay.
is worse than the United
And
States in
please
relation
give
to free
me
speech
a-
laws.
Please give me an actual citation to back up your
I
claim.
just did.
A citation, please. That is
Okay.
a scholarly source.
Again, you're not arguing with the point at all. You're just saying, well, you didn't give me a source, 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 you didn't give me. Oh, now that you gave me a source, I don't have anything else to say, but I guess you gave me a source.
That you are going to be able to rely on that has actually done the research for this.
Okay, so you would say that Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Maoist China, Che Guevara, Castro regime, Canada, where people. Hold on, I'm just. I can't listen. I can't go through every single country. Come on, let's not do
I'm
the
not
word
asking
play
you.
thing.
I'm just asking you for.
Yes, you were! He said, I'm not asking you to. He gave you 9 examples of the thing that you're asking examples for. He specifically asked you, need I go on? And you said, yes, bro. You are asking him to go through every country.
Give me a scholarly source that says that.
Okay, I don't have a scholarly source with me right now saying that Nazi Germany is worse off with speech laws than the United
And
States.
so what I said
You're just going to
was-
have to take my word for
And
it.
exactly.
Oh, take the L, Steven Crowder. You don't have a source that says Nazi Germany is worse than America? Oh, burn. Oh, no. What a loser. That's so sad.
What I said was there are plenty of examples where it doesn't work. You're absolutely right.
Okay, then give one, motherfucker. Because all you've been saying is, no, give me a source, give me a source, give me a source, give me a source. You fucking give a source then.
I don't disagree
Can
with
you
that at
point
all.
me to any example where it
Eventually,
has?
we can possibly get to the point where it can work, and we need to keep trying. That doesn't mean
One.
because it hasn't worked,
One.
we don't give up.
One.
Well,
You asked me for sources. One country that has better net results for human freedom and human rights by restricting speech. What's your source? One.
you know, I'm honestly going to say we're not there yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I appreciate it, brother.
It can work.
Thank you so much. Hopefully.
Bro, what is what would bring you to think that you can handle this conversation when clearly you cannot? And that's fine. You're not a bad person because you don't have the right answers to a particular question. But what makes you feel like, oh, I'm gonna do well here? I don't get it. Game, set, match. I'm assuming that's what you had to say. It's crazy. There we go. It is crazy to me. So I'm actually going to drop the link. Because I do want to hear from you guys before we head over to Discord. We got about a minute left of this video, and then I'm going to drop the link. I want to hear from you. If you are going to come up, and I would very, 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 very much prefer that you came up. Either way, please, if you don't feel comfortable, as long as you've been in the chat, then you're good. So just use the same name on YouTube that you have in StreamYard, so I know you're not some random person. Hey, we got Kelly's gonna join the Discord. Word up! Yeah, that link is in the description, and as soon as we're done here, that is exactly where we're headed. And we are having a $100 contest for the month of December. So that is up for grabs. Mike says, Yay would disagree with Germany being on that list. I mean, yeah. But be wrong about that, wouldn't he? So let's finish this up.
Once we find that one example, that'll be great. Oh, well, they can't all be gems. By the way, notice anything? Even though we returned to TCU, where they screeched and warned about the perils of this program, the students were by and large peaceful, civil, engaged, and most left surprisingly untraumatized. Even more, we couldn't walk through campus without students both left and right expressing their appreciation for your efforts. Really, which begs the question, are students really too far gone beyond saving? Or is it just the loudest voices amplified by the far left administrators who've made us think that to be so?
I definitely agree with that. I think that, I've been talking about how I think as a millennial, I can see that millennials are the worst generation ever. Gen Z is not doing great right now, but they're young. They're children. And I think as they get older, they're going to see how millennials we just didn't get older. So many millennials that I know are children. They're fucking children. And it's pathetic. And while Gen Z are literally children right now, I think as they grow up, they're not going to want to follow in the footsteps of the people that they see now, namely millennials. So I really I dropped the link. If you guys want to come up, feel free. I'm very interested in to hear what you guys think about this. About is hate speech real? I don't think it is. I think it's been very clear here tonight that hate speech is just another example of left-wing semantic obfuscation. If you are new here, become familiar with that term, semantic obfuscation. Taking words and making them mean a different thing than they're supposed to mean. This is one of the greatest tools of the Democratic Party and of leftist activist types. Hate speech. It just means things that you don't like. That's all it means. And in a country where free speech is our top value, then I'm sorry. But what we just saw is not enough to show me that there needs to be a change in any type of legislation around speech or anything like that. I'll give you guys another minute if anybody wants to hit the link. Otherwise, I'm very excited to head over to Discord, get you guys some Jackbox points. You can play Murder Mystery or Quiplash or whatever. Coming up in Discord gets you points as well. So actually, yeah, let me talk about that. So we have the $100 contest for the month of December going on in Discord. The link is in the description. So just join the Discord. It is free to join for now. It's going to stay free for whoever's in there. Then when we hit a certain number that I already have in my head, everybody who's in there is going to be grandfathered in, but there will be no new free entries. Everybody's going to have to pay, and they're going to want to pay because that Discord is going to be fucking awesome. So get in now while you can. And like I said, we got the $100 going, so you may as well give it a shot. And it's just for, so the ways to get points are just from ranking up, which comes from engaging with the server, spending 30 minutes on camera in the voice channel where it's not online, but it's kind of just like this. So I'm about to pull Salty up, and but it's not like online. It's private for our server. Then we have some games that we play, and if you win a game, you get some points. All that stuff gets added up, and on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whichever I feel like doing, we're going to announce the winner, and that person gets $100 and a free TheIndianJesus t-shirt. So join up. The link is in the description, and let's bring on last month's winner, who was so gracious to take his monetary winnings and put them back into the server so that we could all enjoy more. We've got Salty Plays in the building.
What's up?
What is good, brother? What is good? How are you?
I'm pretty good.
So what did you think of all this?
I think it was a pretty good stream. I liked the Steven Crowder video. It was probably one of the most relaxed videos I've seen. Well, in regards to like leftists kind of going crazy, you know. But I enjoyed it because it asked all the right questions. It brought up some good points, like the kind of countries that limit speech and how they haven't done very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that point because like countries like China and Russia and places like that limit speech, they are oppressive and tyrant-like, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so obviously the case that when people try to act like they're, a lot of times I feel like it comes from, oh, I feel like I've experienced hate, so I want to stop the hate speech. And it's like, yo, you have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world. Like somebody telling you that they don't like your politics is not hate speech. Somebody telling you that they don't want to date you for whatever reason is not hate speech. But these kids are so pampered.
Yeah. And like Crowder said, everyone has their own definition of what hate speech is. Like, if I decided that, oh, if you say you don't like the game, my favorite game, that's hate speech. Like, so how are we supposed to enforce laws on hate speech if we can't have everyone on the same idea of what that is?
Exactly. Was there anything that that you heard tonight that you actually did agree with from the guests?
Wait, what do you mean? Oh no, the guests on the Crowder video? No, not really.
No, it's a tough one, right? It was tough.
Yeah.
So M says unless they don't want to yeah, exactly. But yeah, definitely. So I think it was pretty straightforward that this hate speech thing is a semantic obfuscation and doesn't mean shit. So Salty, I'm going to give you the floor. Tell everybody about what you've been doing, where they can find you, what they should do. The floor is yours.
All right, like Lutz said, join the Discord. I'll be in there for the game tonight, but I might be a little late because I'm getting my hair cut. But if you like gaming, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm doing a live stream maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, and I guess I'll see you guys there.
Word up. All right, so we'll definitely see you later tonight, and then you guys, yeah, you're playing The Last of Us today, right?
Yeah, I'm playing The Last of Us Part 2 tomorrow.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to hang out. I will see you over in Discord.
All right, see ya.
Peace out, brother. So yeah, I think you know, there because the people who came up didn't really give great arguments. There's not really too much for us to dissect and you know, interpret from their arguments. It was just bullshit. And that's going to be the case sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be an easy win, and sometimes it's really going to challenge us. But as long as we continue to come here and challenge ourselves, challenge each other, and continue to make sure that the thing that we think is actually what we should think by legitimately trying to poke holes in it, we're going to continue to be better people. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. As always, it is a huge thing for me. Any second you guys spend with me is I can't tell you how much it means to me. It's I know that you could be doing anything else in the world, so thank you very much for being here. If you have not already, please do hit that like button. That is one of the biggest things that will help us in the algorithm, and we call this a party for a reason, because I want a party. And in order to do that, we got to get people in here. So if you have not already done so, also hit that subscribe button. Last week, I went 6 straight days in a row, and people are like, whoa, what's going on? IndianJesus is live. I didn't even know. Well, if you were subscribed, if you hit that notification bell, if you went to the notifications, then you would know. But even sometimes those notifications suck. So what I need you guys to do is every time you pop in, the first thing you do, take that URL of the video, post it, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, wherever else. Be the notification you want to see in the world. That is how we are going to grow. That is how we're going to do what we're going to do. And, oh, it looks like we've got a last minute guest here. Just a cog in the fuckery. What is going on, girl? How are you?
I'm alive. How are you?
Good. What did you think of all this?
It was a good show, definitely. That one broad, man, she was embarrassing to listen to.
What did you think? I mean, do you think any of them made any valid points? I mean,
I definitely agreed with the second chick. I think everybody else is just trying to sound intelligent.
yeah.
And that's about where it ended. But yeah, they tried. As far as hate speech, like, people are way too up in their feelings. You know, there's consequences for things that you say, but as far as punishing people, like that goes too far.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. So, do you think hate speech exists, but we shouldn't be punished for it, or do you think that's just a completely nonsensical concept?
It's a very gray area, I think, these days. Like, I mean, for me, when I was growing up, hate speech would be like racism, you know?
Right.
Nowadays, it's just whatever bothers you is what people consider to be hate speech. So it's definitely become nonsense.
Right. And so that's why, you know, all night, I for those who like, I don't know where No Freedoms went. He was here, but he dipped out and he said he does believe in hate speech. And then, so, okay, then what's the difference between just speech that you happen not to like and hate speech? And again, that's where there's the impasse. So I think you're right in the sense that there is, there's, like we said early on, there's people who can say things that are hurtful and hateful. That's not what the argument is. We're saying legally, should that be treated differently than anything else that would be said? And
I think when you start getting the legal things of that's when you start stepping on people's rights, because then where does it end?
Absolutely. And I think that point alone, that's enough to just say, yeah, that's a slippery slope, and we can't do that, and people aren't going to be nice all the time, but grow the fuck up.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta suck it up and you just gotta deal with what people say. Like, set fucking boundaries.
There you go.
That's what they're there for.
Taking on some personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Am I gonna see you over in Discord tonight?
I think so. I'll be over there for a little bit. I've been staring at freaking screens and such all day, so not gonna be too long, but yeah.
Sounds good.
I need to at least log some 30 minutes.
Fair enough. All right. Well, if any final words for the people, where they can find you, all that stuff, the floor is yours.
No, man, I don't want to be found. Don't find me. I'll find you.
Fair enough. Well said. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming up, and I will see you over in Discord.
All right. See you in a bit.
All right. Next up, we got Trad Guy Travels. What is good, brother?
What's up, Lex? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So what do you think of all this?
It was a waste of his interview time. It was, like I said, a long time to say nothing.
But don't you think that is, while there definitely are people who could probably express this position of hate speech being something so important, whatever, they could probably articulate that well. But doesn't it kind of say something about where, what the political landscape is that we got four different people kind of saying the same thing without actually being able to articulate anything? I mean, I think to me, that says that, okay, there really is no argument there.
I mean, that's probably the school system right there. I mean, the one girl said, oh, I had, what did she say? Some class, debate class or something?
Yeah, she said she was on the speech and debate team. And she was not very good at speech or debate.
As soon as she said that, I knew it was going to be a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how that was going to go. I've seen that happen so many times before.
There you go. What about the notion of like the what they were saying about this arbitrary line, that even though it may be arbitrary, we want to have some type of legal justification for punishing somebody more for doing more hateful things. Do you think that is at least a reasonable position for them to have?
Well, they can't even explain their position, whatever it is. I mean, they just bring shit up and then they can't even give any clear examples or anything like specific when you ask. They're just like, well, and then they like change the topic, or they just make it even more vague and like dance around it.
Definitely. But if we're to be charitable, I'm going to say, okay, what is it that they're trying to get across? What is it that, like, I can understand that they want people to be able to exist without worrying about being hated on, experiencing hate. Now we can take the notion that, like, that's utopian. It's life that you're going to get some bullshit one way or the other. Whichever way it comes at you, you're going to get some bullshit just living life. But I think what they're trying to get at is that we don't need to add to that. And so I think they think there is a place for the government to come in and regulate speech. Even though you and I agree that they're wrong, do you think that's an understandable position?
that they think the government should come in at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to entertain the idea. I don't believe that they should, but I'm willing to at least listen to them, but they can't even get their points together.
Right. And that's
I don't even know if they have a point, but they just don't even know how to debate, don't even know how to put a point together, examples, anything, back up what they're saying. It's just feelings.
Yeah. And that's the sad part is because, I always, leave the possibility open that I'm wrong about something. I have my motto here: believe nothing except that anything is possible. And nobody comment on my skinny arms, but believe nothing except that anything is possible. So it is possible that hate speech is real and that we need legislation around it. But it's not my job to figure out what the reasoning and argument for that is. So if y'all believe that, and y'all
that's what the one girl was trying to do. She was trying to ask him. She was trying to argue, but then ask him for the answer that she wanted.
Yeah.
When she's the one who's supposed to be explaining that to him.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, I think to some extent that has to do with, like you said, the education system and these people being in college and not really having to deal with, engaging with these ideas. And certainly, as Kelly is saying, I know nothing of Socrates and thinking or speaking in syllogisms or anything like that. But hopefully, this was a little bit of a wake-up call to those involved.
I'm one of those people who's completely open to new ideas and even changing my mind. But you have to have a good reason. You have to actually bring something up that's good, that explains your point and convinces me, like not just air. Come with something more than that.
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that I have the thoughts and feelings that I have very deliberately. If I'm willing to change my mind, but like you said, it's your responsibility to come and do that if that's your goal. If you don't care, okay, then you don't care. If you don't have the justification, then sorry, but my mind is gonna stay where it is. But you are willing to try, and so and try they did, despite the fact that it seemed to be a miserable failure.
They tried. That one girl, the one that kept going for a while, that kept going in circles, I believe she agreed with him. She just wanted to be right. She just couldn't admit that she was wrong.
Yeah, I mean that was between being modern woman, being on speech and debate, and thinking that she knew what the hell was going on. She was not willing to let that go. But your true colors show when you don't have a screen to hide behind. You don't have time to look this up and that up and craft your perfect response. A real face-to-face conversation will really show who you really are.
Yeah, people aren't used to that. And just like, at least it wasn't like some of the other videos where people maybe at protests or something, they come across an idea that opposes theirs and then they're like, oh, like they insult them or like, I don't want to have this conversation and walk away or something like that, like you've seen. At least you didn't do that.
Yeah, that's, at least it was civil. At least they kept it civil. I guess if you're gonna have stupid ideas, that's all we can really hope for, is that you're civil about them.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for coming up to hang out. I hope I will get to
Discord.
see you over in the Discord. But before we get to there, I'm going to give you the floor. I hear you're starting a new channel. So where can the people find you? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lutch. My channel is exactly as my name shows, Trad Guy Travels. Just started. I'll be traveling everywhere around the world, putting up vlogs and stuff. I'll even be having panels just on my own. Even if you come on too, that'd be dope. But Just anything travel related, I'm going to be doing. I'll have discussions too on international incidents with Americans and other things. It'll be fun.
Word up. Yeah, man. I'm definitely down to come and talk about. I don't travel too much, but I definitely have a lot of places where I'd like to travel too. So maybe that'll be the conversation is wishful thinking. Where are we going next in my mind?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much again for hanging out, brother. I really appreciate it. Always love the support. And hope to see you in Discord. But otherwise, I will see you next time.
See you in Discord.
Peace out, brother. So say we got the party raging on in Discord, so I don't want to even keep everybody waiting. So go, like I said, link is in the description. All you got to do is have a phone number or an email, and that is it. It is free. So go join that. It is also free to like the video, to comment afterwards, to share. Like I was just talking about them notifications. Do you know how much those notifications on YouTube suck? You know it. You don't get notified for the shit you want to watch. So take the URL and plaster it everywhere you can. Be the notification that I want to see in the world. And, even if you don't want to do any of that, guys, it is totally fine. Of course, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I think we can make it by Valentine's Day. That is my goal. I think that we can make it to monetization by Valentine's Day. But before then, of course, super chats, all of that is not available. But I just spent over $2,000 upgrading the entire system. So if you would like to help support the channel, you can do so right there. CashApp, Venmo, PayPal, Bitcoin, all of that stuff. But you don't have to do any of that. Like I said, it is free to like, comment, subscribe, to share. And most importantly, it is free to come here, hang out with me, spend time with me, have conversations in the chat. And that is what matters most to me. So again, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. And there's nothing to say except that I really, really, really appreciate every second with you guys. And with that, I hope to see you over in Discord. And I hope you enjoy the party. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, catch me in Discord. I am out of here. Peace.